Lions charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rock on, Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the hall of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. In the city, when the roar meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rock on, Detroit Lions will rise. Rock on, Detroit.
All right, good morning, everybody. It is draft day. I can't believe it. We wait all year. We put all this work in. 4 months worth of work for a few hours of fun and a few picks. But it's here. Who do the Detroit Lions take at pick number 1?
Igniting the light through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. Our legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar, together we cry. Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
Thank you. Thank you for the pause. Appreciate it. Good morning and welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Hope you're all having a wonderful Thursday morning. It's draft day. I know you guys are all excited. Are the Lions going to do something drastic today? The chaos, the rumors, the intel, it's never ending. Like there's so much BS flying around right now. It's not even funny, but it's fun at the same time. Like this is what we live for just this one day. Being a draft analyst, being a content creator for your favorite team. This is the day that after the Super Bowl, before the Super Bowl, this is the day. The only day that matters in the NFL, which is the NFL draft. And I'm super excited to have done a lot more work on it this year. Hopefully it'll pan out to some right picks later on this evening. And then I'll be back around 3 o'clock today to put out my final mock draft. The top 36 did go out last night. I was trying to do a live show to kind of talk about it and go through it. But quite honestly, it is so much information and it took so much longer than I anticipated that I felt it would be best just to kind of briefly chat about it this morning. And then we'll use it, throughout the next couple of days. Well, maybe just one day or day and a half talking about the draft picks as they get taken. So it's got a ton of information, or it has a ton of information in there. I called it the mini beast. Not trying to bite off of Dane Brugler, but it is just a ton of info to go through 36 players, the top 36. And look, there might be some names that I missed. It's not a predictive model. It's more so just a rankings model. But I kind of predict at the same time, where they're going to land. And you'll see in there's a few that I specifically did more work on. Offensive linemen I did some more work on. Some safeties I did some more work on. And a few others. But enjoy it at DetroitFootballJournal.com. Again, that's DetroitFootballJournal.com. Get in, sign up today, get your free 90-day membership, and let's get rolling this morning. I don't want to leave Eric hanging too much longer here. Let's get rocking and rolling on the draft, man. Let's just do it. What's happening, Eric?
Well, it's draft day.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Man, I'm excited about it, man. I don't know about you, but I'm excited.
Well, I'm kind of like a lot of other fans out there that just are not seeing the hype for this draft this year. And I don't know if it's because there's not 7 quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round. This is more of a meat and potatoes kind of draft compared to the last 3 or 4 drafts. We don't have all of these the flashy quarterbacks going at the top of the draft like usual. You know, the JJ McCarthy draft with all the quarterbacks that were taken, and you know, people like McCarthy going at 9 that nobody saw coming. There, I don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of that today.
Yeah, I mean, not with quarterbacks. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's pretty spelled out. I mean, we'll have one that we'll talk about that could be, potential to sneak into the first round, and he definitely didn't make my top 36, and that's Ty Simpson. You just mentioned that draft,
Yeah.
2024, and one of the crazier drafts in a long time because you had Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Marvin Harrison, Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors, J.C. Latham, Penix Dunze, Bo Nix, McCarthy, of course. But you had all these players go before all these offensive players went before one defensive player.
Yeah.
And the first defensive player that went off the board, which I totally didn't expect, Latu. He went at pick 15, I believe, or pick 16.
Yeah. Wasn't that the first time that all offense had went for that long in the first round of a draft?
I don't know if it. I mean, it might have been. It would make sense. It would make sense. That was the draft where you saw the most amount of offensive players go before a defensive player went. But I mean, that draft was also loaded. When you go back, let me pull it up. When you go back and look at it, and it's a good comparative analysis, I think, to this year. So I'm glad you brought it up. It's something that wasn't really on the docket this morning.
It's just thinking of it from a fan's point of view and not, analysts or looking at the draft all the time. Just the your run of the mill fan that's just going to tune in today, has no clue who any of these guys are.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not a lot of buzz going into this draft.
I mean, there is and there isn't. I mean, there's the normal buzz, but I think for a lot of fans, they just don't have a true understanding this year of who's who. And I mean, to be honest, we'll talk about this in a moment too. Like the edge class, it has its deficiencies. The offensive line class has its deficiencies. The quarterback class, there isn't one. And so those are the three main components to a draft. And then cornerbacks, those are typical players that are seen more at the top of the draft. So those four positions typically weight heavily at the beginning of the first round. And this year you have linebackers, you have tight end, you have running back, safeties, positions that just don't usually get called this early. And so it's a draft of unknown because some of these players are raw. I mean, a lot of them are raw. A lot of them have key deficiencies that you normally wouldn't take in the first round. And so, again, Brad's going to get blamed for whatever goes wrong when every team has the same problem. I'm going to bring in some audio here in a little bit. I'm going to listen to what Nick Saban said. If you guys didn't have a chance to hear that, we'll hear what Nick Saban said about Caden Proctor. And then there were some other key things in the Pat McAfee show. So it's going to be about a 4 to a 6 minute listening adventure. I might stop and start and break it down in between, but there's some very key points of what they were talking about yesterday, things that I've been talking about for a long time. And then there's also, Eric, the one thing I guess I'll start with, I mentioned it yesterday again, but I've been saying this for a long time. The very start of free agency, I told everybody that offensive line was critical and key, that the Lions in free agency were looking to secure the linebackers and the DBs, and that they were doing a ton of homework on the offensive line. And it wasn't just because of free agency. It was because of the draft. Well, that's no secret, right? It's no secret. Everybody in the league knows that that's where the Lions are going. And they know that if the Lions get their pick, what is going to happen to them if they have, another dominant offensive line. They're going to be able to run roughshod over every defense in the league if the Lions go back to having the number 1, number 2, or number 3 offensive line in the league. And they're close. They're very, very close. With the players that they have now and the 1 or 2 players that they could add in this draft, it should be able to get them back there. Now, will it get them back there right away this year? Maybe. But will they be a lot better this year? Absolutely. So hearing that teams want to jump the Lions, what I don't understand, I guess I understand. Look, I'm a nobody in the big world of NFL analysts. I'm a nobody right now, and that's okay with me. But I've been saying this stuff for a while, that the Lions were going to get jumped, the plan is to get jumped, and that offensive line was going to be the key. Months ago, I said it. Why is it just happening the last 2-3 days that people are just having this epiphany, like, oh, this is going to happen? No, my intel told every single person watching this show 2 months ago this was going to happen. This was the plan, and this is where it was going. And now all of a sudden it surfaces? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would I know something way before everybody else? Y'all could do the math. We try to get a lot right on the show, but we do it the right way. And so now there's a lot of smoke screen going on. And I think that some of the intel that's being used, I think it's being used in the wrong way. But it is what it is, man. That's how people thrive, and if that's how they want to live their life and pump all the toxic stuff, that's fine. We're not going to do that. But pay attention. Every time we come on to talk football, there's a reason for it. We try to give you guys the information early so that you're educated. Now it all comes full circle. The question is, Eric, what happens? What happens tonight? How drastic of a move are teams going to make just to try to get ahead of the Lions because they know what's coming? And will Aaron Glenn's relationship with Dan Campbell save the Lions at 16? It could.
Oh, well, Aaron Glenn's relationship with Ben Johnson sabotage Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes.
Touche. All right, let's talk about oldest and youngest. You found some information about oldest and youngest, so why don't you give us a little glimpse of what's happening tonight in the draft?
Well, tonight in the draft, we have some very young and some very old players going in this draft. And in the top 50 of the draft, there are players at a wide range of age. And I don't remember ever seeing this wide of a range with this many players. So, for instance, you have Jeremiah Love, who is one of the younger players. He's not the youngest, but he's at 20.9 years of age. So you're going to get Jeremiah Love. You're going to be able to have him for 5 years. He's only going to be 25 years old when he hits that 6th year in the league. That's going to be great. He'll just be turning 26. And the same thing for Francis Mauigoa and Caden Proctor. They're both 20.88 years old. They both have the same birthday, is what I heard. And then you have Brandon Siss, the cornerback out of Carolina. He's 20.81. Jermad McCoy is 20.68. Connor Liu from Auburn is 20.65. And then you have Arvell Reese, the linebacker. He's looking at going number 2 or number 3, and he's only 20.65 years old. Then you have the youngest player in the draft, Keldrick Falk, the edge from Auburn. So you want to talk about a piece of clay that you're going to have for 5 years, and you're going to be able to mold that guy into what you want for the next 5 years. Well, then we're going to flip the coin, and we're going to go to the oldest player in the draft, who is also an edge, and that's Akeem Messidor, and he's already 25.5 years old. So he's the age, Akeem Messidor is the age right now that Keldrick Falk will be when he's done with his first 5-year contract. So he's already pretty much molded. There's not going to be too much molding going on with Akeem Messidor, But then you have a few more that are kind of on the older side of things. And these guys range from anywhere from 24.15 all the way up to 25 years old. And I'll list them from oldest to youngest here. So you got Akeem Messidor at 25.05. And then Romeo Height, the edge from Texas, is also 25. Keegan Trost, the inside outside linebacker from Missouri. We've talked about him a little bit. He's 25. And I haven't heard anybody talking about his age. And then you have Keontae Scott, the cornerback from Miami, who's also 24, almost 25. Nate Burkacher, the tight end from Texas A&M, is 24. Then you have Traden Stukes, who we talked about yesterday. He's 24.61 years old. Emmanuel Pregnon, there's the guard from Oregon. He talked to the Lions at the Combine. And so maybe age isn't scaring the Lions off too much. And then you have Logan Jones, the inside outside linebacker from Iowa, 24.48. And then you have the quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. He's one of the guys I kind of like in this draft. He's 24.21 years old. And then finally we have Zakee Wheatley, the safety from Penn State. You've heard Will talk about him a few times. He's 24.15 years old. So these guys are going to be somewhere between 29 and 30 years old when they hit their second contract. So is that going to scare teams and make some of these guys fall down the board and make some of these younger guys move up the board?
Well, there's a name that you mentioned in there that I want to just pull a sidebar on real quick, and I haven't done enough work on him. And quite honestly, I was not able to watch film on him yet. And that's Traden Stukes, and I doubt I'm going to be able to do it before today.
Yep.
But two guys actually out of here. Three guys. Emmanuel Pregnon, Zakee Wheatley, and Traden Stukes. So when you look at players that you want to add to your roster and at positions of need and positions of future roster building, I think that it makes a lot of sense when you grab an older player. Where is your team? Like, are they in a position to win now? Are they in a rebuilding phase, retooling phase? Are they completely gut everything? You know, there's 3-4 different phases of an NFL team. And the Lions are in the phase of retooling every year. They have their core. They're going to have their core for the next 2 to 4 seasons. And so every year they're just kind of grabbing a couple of guys to help them win some extra games, maybe go a little bit further in the playoffs, hopefully win that elusive Super Bowl. And so a guy like Traden Stukes, who's 24.6 years old. So what is that, 24 in 7 months or something?
Yeah.
He'll be 25 when the season starts, but he has a lot of experience. And when you have a lot of experience, you have a lot of playing time, there's usually a lot of things that you know about that player right away that are not going to get better, and some things about that player that maybe you really like that he does well. So some of his strengths, he's aggressive in the box. He's not a bystander. That's a check mark for Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. He has quick feet for a taller corner. He has impressive breaks. And so when we listen to Nick Saban here in a little bit, Nick Saban backs up everything that I've been saying about the corner position and the safety position as a whole. So I'm glad to hear it from somebody that, won 7 championships. World-renowned, one of the best college coaches ever. Backs up the things that I talk about with the DBs. Also, Traden Stukes reads from off zone really well and should translate quickly. Some of his weaknesses, though, as a 6th-year prospect who tore his ACL in 2024, that kind of makes you wince, I think, a little bit that he tore his ACL a little bit later in life. Remember when we were talking with Dr. Troha that he said, 25 is kind of geriatric in the NFL, and that's when ligaments, start to pop and things start to move in ways that you don't want it to. So that could be a little bit of a concern, but he played last year, and he played really well. So he does struggle outside before settling in the slot, which is probably where he's going to be at the next level, is in the slot. And we know that the Lions could definitely benefit from a really good slot defender, after McCreary and Izzy, and depending on what happens with them, it'd be nice to have a young guy, ready to go. Trim frame could get bounced around in the box at the NFL level. So your weight, is obviously, important, especially at certain positions. You don't want to get pushed off the line. Definitely don't want to get pushed around in the trash, where he would be in the slot. His combine data, though, was phenomenal. 4.33 40-yard dash. He's burning, man. 38-inch vertical, 10 foot 10 broad. So the things that he does well, he has an argument as a top slot corner in this class. He enters the NFL as one of the most experienced defensive backs with 5 years as a starter, including the past 3 primarily in the slot. So that I think that's where he transitioned 100%. He's not going outside corner. Stukes brings a rangy frame that can affect the catch point from the trail position, and he picked off 4 passes and broke up 6 more last year. That's key, right? So your height, your weight, all that stuff's great, but the arm length, where is it, right? And I don't know his arm length because I don't have the measurement in front of me, but I'm going to get it here in just a second. I'm curious to know if he's around the 31 and a half inch range. I honestly don't know. But that would tell me something. But he is a taller corner. And let me get his measurements here from the combine. So I like the kid. I mean, I haven't watched the film, so I can't validate what everyone else is saying all of a sudden. I don't even remember the combine, Eric. I don't remember seeing him.
I don't remember seeing him either. What was his injury that he had?
The ACL.
ACL.
Yeah, okay. That was an 04 or 24 though. So here we go. He's 6 foot and 5/8. He's got requisite height for me. Anything over 6 foot
fine.
works. 190 pounds. He could stand to gain probably 5 to 8 pounds of muscle, especially running a 4.33. He's not going to slow down by gaining a little bit. But what does it do to his change of direction, his fluidity, the flip in the hips, his foot speed? That's where weight gain can typically have some impact. Arm length is where I would hope it would be, 31 3/4. So he's going to have one of the longer arms of any of the players in the DB class. His hands, 8.5 inches, a little bit on the small side, but disruption at the catch point. And so when I read this analysis here where it says he has the ability to affect the catch point from the trail position. So when you flip and you run, right, and you're trying to catch up to that receiver or tight end, whatever, running back, whatever it is, and you're trailing, right? So you're trailing. You're trying to stay in phase or you're trying to get up into phase. You're kind of mirroring the guy. You're running down. You're hopefully going to look back at some point. But even if you're a yard behind and you know when the ball's coming and you reach, that's what they're talking about. At the catch point, you're trailing. His reach can disrupt the football, disrupt the catch point. So wide receivers slow down at the catch, right? And so cornerbacks, when they're trailing, are still speeding up. They're going to blow right through you. That's their point. Or that's their goal, is to blow right through you. So he's going to blow right through the catch point with his arm extended to disrupt the football. So I like a lot about what's being said. I just don't have the film to back it up. This is a player that could jump up maybe into the tail end of the first round, and I think it really matters what happens with Jermod McCoy. If Jermod McCoy gets bounced out of the first round, which Intel has said a lot of teams have taken him off the board, you just don't know if the top teams that need a corner have taken him off the board that are selecting in the top 20 picks. I think between 21 and 32, I think it's pretty consistent about what those teams are looking at. And I don't know if corner is at the top of most of those teams' lists, maybe one or two. So anyway, interesting. And then the next player, and I'll be quick on this one, Saki Wheatley. The reason why I like what he does is because he's good at his job. But most importantly, it's that age factor. When you need a player to come in and secure a spot in the secondary, whether he's coming off the bench, playing in sub packages, hell, I don't care if it's special teams. Having an older player that has been around, seen more, done more in this defense matters. Having a young rook come in, there's nothing wrong with that. But we're looking to go make an impact this year, right? We want to go win a Super Bowl right now. So I would not be afraid of pulling in one or two older players. Where would I spend that draft capital? Probably on day 3. And even into late day 2, I would look at some of the older players as prime positions for the Lions because of the age factor. Instead of, typically taking a young player later in the round, bring in a little bit older, more mature player that's done it, seen it a little bit more. And then lastly, Emmanuel Pregnon. Same exact thing that I just said about Saki Wheatley. You need an offensive lineman that can come in and set the tone right away. In my opinion, he's going to be one of the best guards in this class as a traditional guard. The tackles that end up flipping to guard in this class, they're going to, I think, outplay Emmanuel Pregnon over time. But Emmanuel Pregnon coming in as the true, in my opinion, best guard in this class. I know that doesn't mix with Olavavega Neoni or Maui Go. Maui Go as a tackle. Neoni is really the number one true guard in this class. But I see Emmanuel Pregnon being better over time. And Max Ahanachor could beat both of them in the next couple of years. So I think you have a really good guard class this year. I think the tackle class is absurdly terrible. There's just not that many. And you don't have very many options to get something wrong in this draft. If you don't get your guys gone. So with that, I'll yield back, man. What do you want to say on that?
It makes me form a question. Do you think that some of these guys they're older, right? They're 24, almost 25. Some of them are over 25. Do you think that would scare you as a GM drafting in the first round, or would you rather go younger with some of these guys that are maybe play the same position and are only 20 years old that you can mold? Or do you want somebody that can play right away today that is your number one overall pick? So let's say,
well, I think I kind of already answered that. If it depends on where you are in the roster building process. If your team is Super Bowl bound, you're a team that should be able to compete. I don't think it matters if you bring in an older player. I think it helps. If you're a team that is rebuilding from the ground up, you want young players because you do want to mold them. You want guys with more moldable clay, so to speak, because the guys that are a little bit older, they're going to be a little bit more rigid in what they do. The old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's pretty tough to get rid of some of the negatives that a player has when they're a little bit older, and because it's muscle memory. Their body's been doing it over and over and over, and if you want them to do something different, it's a little bit harder to get that old dog to do a new trick. So I think that, I'll give you the same answer that I just did. It's team specific based on roster and where your roster is, and if you are trying to compete, which all teams are trying to compete for a Super Bowl, but let's be honest, 20 teams out of every season are really competing. And even with that, maybe 15 or less actually have a shot. And then it just depends on if you stay healthy or not. So I'm not afraid of taking an older player at all. I think that in this class, Akeem Messidor would be the one that makes the most sense for a lot of teams because he's polished. Now, again, your roster matters. And why does it matter? One simple reason. Like for the Lions, for instance, we have a lot of big contracts. So if you bring in Akeem Messidor at 25 years old, you're kind of like thankful that he may not sign a second deal because you can't afford it. You can't afford it with the players that you have now, but that can all change in 4 or 5 years, right? Depending on where your roster is. So it's all relative, man. I think that these are the mental gymnastics that GMs have to go through.
I have a hypothetical for you. Okay. The Lions, they do a trade, and let's say they're going to trade out of 17, and they pick up an extra draft pick. Well, they get their offensive lineman, and now Brad, he wants an edge. Okay. So he's sitting there at 31. Okay. He's sitting there at 31, and he has Keldrick Falk and Akeem Messidor staring him in the face. Which one does he take? The 20-year-old or the 25-year-old?
Repeat the question one more time.
So the Lions, they pulled off a trade. They traded back from 17, and they got, let's say, 21 and 31. And at 21, they take their offensive lineman. Now they're at 31, and they're trying to figure out, they want an edge, and there's two of them screaming at them on the board. You got Keldrick Falk and Akeem Messidor. You got Falk, who is 20 years old, and Akeem Messidor, who's 25. And now this is a first-round pick, so you're going to have 5 years of control. Mm-hmm. So do you take Falk, who is the younger at 20 years old, or are you going to take Akeem Messidor at 25 years old?
Well, if we go by what I just said, the money is real. It's a real problem in Detroit. We're attempting to win a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Akeem Messidor gives you more right now. If they feel that Turner and Wana might be able to come back for a second or even a new contract, then you take Falk, right? And I'm not even sure that Falk goes in the first round right now. Falk is the premier edge setter and run defender. His pass rush upside is going to take a couple of seasons. But then again, I'm gonna, I guess I'm gonna lean to what I said about Nick Scorton. Everyone thought that his low production meant that he wasn't going to be able to produce in the NFL. He produced in the NFL in his first year. So I think you have to look at the scheme. You have to look at, why the production was low. And based on that, is that going to change inside your scheme? Was he restricted in ways, that maybe he won't be restricted inside your scheme? So all of those things, your defensive coordinator, your coach, they have to answer that, right? I can't answer that. Why I can't? There's no way I could ever figure that out because I don't know what these guys are asked to do from play to play. The film only tells you so much, and really it tells you what happened on the play. Physically what they did, where they were lined up, were they effective, were they not effective? But I don't know what the call was. And the call could have been, hey, I just need you to set the edge. That's it. And if that's what he was asked to do, shut the run down and set the edge, he did a damn good job, A++++. But if he was asked to get after the quarterback on every play, then we have a major problem. But where do those questions get answered? That's when your defensive coordinator or your scouts or whomever speaking with the school, typically the scouts, are asking, what was his plan? What was the rush plan? What was he tasked to do on any given downs, third down? And then that's where you get intelligent and you can understand more about these players. But to answer your question specifically, I think the Lions would opt to Akeem Messidor versus Keldrick Falk if they were faced in that reality. But then again, it was a trade back. Is that what you said? It was a trade back scenario?
Yeah.
So if it was a trade back scenario and you picked up another pick, then I guess it really depends on who's on the board. So, that's a really tough question to answer because I don't know who's on the board.
I'm just saying it's those two. You got those two players. You got an old one and a young one.
Yeah, but you're going to have 150 other players on the board. And so I don't know who the other players are.
I know, but I'm just saying that Brad really wants an edge, and he's going to take one right here.
Yeah, but what's going to happen is if I say I would take X or Y in this case, later on someone's going to clip it and say, see, you're wrong.
Yeah,
I'm not going to pigeonhole myself, because I don't know who's on the board. There's just no way I'm going to do that.
I'm just thinking if the Lions are in win now, Super Bowl window, you take the polished older player. You take the Akeem Messidors.
I think it's a perfect.
If you are wanting to mold someone into what you think they can be, then you take the younger player. If you are looking at your offensive tackle for the next 10 years, I'm taking a younger player. If I'm thinking about taking a quarterback to be a backup for Jared Goff, I don't know as I really care how old the guy is. Do I want somebody more polished to sit behind Goff and be ready to step in day one if something heaven forbid happens to Jared Goff? Do I want someone with a little more experience, or do I want a younger kid that can sit there for 3-4 years and soak everything up from Goff and be his eventual replacement? So those are the kind of things that I think Brad's going to have to weigh in the upcoming days if he picks, like, let's say, a backup quarterback.
Yeah, it's not going to be an older player at backup quarterback. There's no way.
You think it'll be younger?
It has to be. It has to be because Goff is under contract for the next 3 to 4 seasons, I think, still. So they're not going to run away from Jared Goff because of his contract. His contract is what it is. It's a reality in the NFL, and his contract is going to get cheaper, every single season. because the salary cap is going to go up, and other quarterbacks' contracts are going to go up, and so he's going to get cheaper comparatively. I don't think that an older quarterback would make much sense here. I think you want to take the quarterback that has all the tools. I like Nussmeier. I do. I thought he was great in the Panini Bowl.
But wouldn't you want an older quarterback that can just step in?
They have that. They have Teddy B.
Yeah, well, I'm taking Teddy B out of the equation.
But you can't. He's on the roster.
Yes. Well,
right now he's on the roster.
Okay. So Jared Goff goes down with
you said it.
Something bad.
I've intentionally not said that all year.
He's out for 3 games. Something that hasn't happened since 2021. He's going to miss 3 games this year. Okay. And let's say Teddy B goes in and he's struggling. He's just not doing the best. And you need to play a rookie. But let's say Teddy B sprains his ankle. So he's out for a couple games. So you have to go to your third string, your rookie, you just drafted quarterback. Do you want someone that you can plug and play this year and get by a few games?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want someone that's still learning the offense because they're very young and inexperienced? I would probably go with the more experienced player myself.
So it's a good question, but I think that there's a lot that goes into that question. Number one, all rookies are going to be learning. All rookies, I don't care how old you are going to be learning the offense well into year 2. All rookies are going to struggle, and the numbers are there to back it up, especially when you get into the 4th or 5th round where you're looking at snagging one of these quarterbacks, potentially. Those players are usually not good. Those players usually don't work out, and they don't really ever play, and they are career backups at best. And anytime they go in the game, they're not good. So I think that if you're considering a backup quarterback to save the season that is going to be drafted in the 4th or 5th round, we're planets different on that idea, because I don't think that there's ever a case where that really is going to be successful. Very few and far between do you see players like Brock Purdy that are able to come in and light the world on fire.
But they are out there.
It's 1 in a million, one every 15 years maybe.
Yeah.
And so look, Brad Holmes is good, and he gets lucky sometimes, but he ain't that good.
Attila, I am not the source of the Lions curse.
I can't believe he just said that. Like,
oh my
God.
God.
Intentionally don't say that stuff.
Come on.
I've caught myself a few times.
Hey, the odds are more. Listen, there's the odds are more in the favor of an injury happening to one of our players than not happening.
It's true. It's true.
We have been so blessed with Jared Goff. He's had 1 injury in 5 years of playing for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and that's when he got knocked out of the game with an illegal hit that wasn't penalized.
No, not that one. When back in 21, he had something wrong with his leg or his ankle. He missed.
Oh, yeah, the 3 games he missed back then, yeah.
He missed 3 games. That's the only time he's missed time. Other than that, it's been all little stuff, misses a play here and there. He had to go out to the blue tent.
Goff is, I don't care what anybody
says.
He's
an Iron Man.
He is so freaking tough, man. I don't know where he gets it. When you look at the dude, you just look like, man, he's a cool frat boy, little surfer dude. Nope, he's tough as nails, man. Goff is tough as nails.
Yeah, for the last 15 plus years, the Detroit Lions have been very blessed with quarterback health.
1,000%. All right, let's get into, since I saw the comment there about someone saying that they were off of Proctor because Nick Saban said that he wasn't a self-starter. Yeah, that's not correct. You gotta listen intently to what Nick Saban said. So hopefully you're sticking around, because we're gonna bring that in, and that's coming up next, right after Erica washes his mouth out with holy water and does some sort of an exorcism on
C4 it up
on Caleb Williams. All right, we'll be right back.
I'll clip my fingernails.
Jesus. All right, if you haven't done it yet, please go to pickpool.app. That is pickpool.app. Sign up. It's free. And go to the private section and search up Detroit Football Journal. And then while you're there, you get to enter the password, all capital letters, DFJ Sports 11 exclamation, and put your mock draft in. You can do it for free. If you want to enter the jersey raffle, then it's just $5. You go to buymeacoffee.com/rocked on and just donate $5 to the Cancer Foundation. And then we'll add you to the running. But you got to make sure that when you put your name in the pool, that it matches the name that you give us when you make the donation. Now, none of this stuff needs to be made public about what you do, but this is just it's a private pool that we're going to do every year. I'll start promoting it way early next time. And then if we don't get enough people that pay to be part of the mock draft, then we'll just divvy up the money. That'll go out to the winner. There's only going to be one winner. There's no second place. There's no third place. There's one winner, and I'm excluded. So even if I win, I'm not taking the money. I'm going to give it to the second place person. All right, up next, we're going to be listening to Nick Saban and what he had to say about Caden Proctor. And I think there's a lot of valuable information. It's about a 4 to 6 minute subject. So we'll listen to it. We'll break it up. And we're going to do that right now.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
Zach, go ahead, Zach.
Coach, what about another guy you had, Caden Proctor, who I want to say you only had him his freshman year and then you retired, but early in the draft process, a lot of people, killed him for whatever his weight at certain points last year. He's obviously an athletic freak when you look at his measurables. And now, as we get closer to the draft, he's kind of gaining a lot more heat. People saying, hey, he could be the first or second tackle taken off the board. What do you expect out of him? And why do you think that kind of change has happened this close to the draft?
I think people get a little bit more tolerant of these small issues. People look for reasons not to pick guys.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's how it starts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like players used to tell me all the time, I'm going to go to the combine and improve my stock. You ain't improving your stock. They're looking for reasons not to take you, and they're going to find one. All right, so
do not work
perfect.
out.
But anyway, but I think the thing is this guy is so talented, big, physical, can move, and has power. He's got range. He's got good feet. Now, the issue with him is he's not a bad person. He'll do whatever you ask him to do once you get him in the building. But when he's not in the building, he might get a little overweight. He might not come in the best shape. And those are the kind of things you got to manage with him. But I think they're manageable. In other words, he's not really a self-starter that's going to go out there and, get in great shape and come to camp like you want him. But if you can get him to come to camp, if you got him there and get him ready to go. So I don't think that's a huge negative for the guy. And I think he's going to be a really good player now. And if he can't play tackle, he would be one hell of a guard.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no downside in taking the guy.
Andrew Whitworth, obviously LSU legend alongside you.
We're going to pause it here for just a moment. So the key buzzword here was not a self-starter. But if that's all you took out of that entire portion of Nick Saban, then you missed everything. You missed the most important part of what he's saying there. First and foremost, I'm going to go to what he said about the person of Caden Proctor. He's not a bad person, right? So that's key number one that tells me you got a guy that's a good dude. And I think both Eric and I, when we were at the Combine, got the same feeling that Caden Proctor just lit up the room. I mean, he was so energetic. He was so happy. He wanted to answer every question. He was smiling ear to ear. He enjoyed the process. He even gave me 2 minutes of his, maybe 3 or 4 minutes of his undivided time in the hallway, and he didn't need to do that. And so taking that extra few minutes to talk with a nobody, I thought that spoke volumes to the type of person he is. But there's a difference between you're a great dude, are you a great football player, right? And so there's a lot that you can take away from, guys that are being great, want to answer questions, want to talk ball, want to do this, nice to your face, right? And then there's can you actually do it on the field? And that's where the tape is important, right? That's where the scouting process is important. And I will tell you, bar none, Caden Proctor on film has very few mistakes. Now, when he was not at his optimal weight, he had minor issues. And matter of fact, that's what Nick Saban just said. That there's some minor issues that people get tolerant of the small issues, right? Small issues. Him saying that he's not a self-starter when he's away from school, when he's away from the field, that he may come in a little bit, out of shape or not at his optimal weight. The key word here is that when he is asked to do something, he does it. What have I been trying to tell you all now for months about Caden Proctor? Everyone kept telling me about his weight issue. And the one thing that I kept saying was every time he was asked to hit a weight, he did it. And you also have to take into consideration that what he was asked to do was what he was asked to do. If he was asked to play at 370, he played at 370. If it didn't work out and he was asked to play at 366, he went to 366. When he was asked to get sub 350, or as close to 350 as he could at the combine, he came in at 348, weighed in officially at 352. So for a player that people have this negative connotation about, well, he came in overweight, he's played at some high weights, and I'm out on this player because of that, because he's not a self-starter according to some subjective theory. I look at what actually happened. And what actually happened is what Caden was asked to do, he did. And when he got to his weight, his better playing weight, he played extremely well. And for about 12 games, he had 0 sacks allowed. And I think it was from the Florida State or the Florida Gators game, maybe to the tail end of one of the championship games of the run last year. There's 12 games, he had no sacks. Now, did he have heavy feet at sometimes? Did he have slow feet at sometimes? Absolutely. But the other thing here that Nick Saban says, so talented, big, physical, can move, power, range, do whatever he is asked to do. And all of these things, little things, are manageable. And they're manageable, and it's not a negative. The biggest thing about this, and this is the other thing that I have tried to highlight with Caden Proctor, is that when I asked Caden very clearly, teams have asked you to go to guard? Yes. Do you want to play guard? No. But I will do whatever I have to do to be on the field. That tells me that that's a guy that wants to play football. This isn't a guy that just wants to play in the NFL. And we're going to hear that here in a moment, too, with the rest of this, is that maybe some guys just want to play in the NFL. It's that love, connection that they have with someday being in the bright lights at a big stadium in an NFL jersey. NIL has kind of changed that a little bit now. So now you're starting to separate the guys that just want to play in the NFL for the money, that now are getting the money. Caden's made a ton of money. He still wants to play ball. He loves football. He wants to be the best at what he does. But putting him inside at guard, which I could see the Lions do that, wow. Could you imagine this offensive line with Caden Proctor in at guard? Immediate all-pro guard potential within a couple of seasons. Immediate. So I'm not concerned one bit about Caden Proctor. And if the Lions get a chance to draft him, well, maybe they weren't tolerant of the small issues then if they don't. And we'll figure that out after the draft, because I'm sure the question is going to get asked if they don't for some reason take him. Let's listen to the rest of what they were talking about.
He told us at the beginning of his career in Cincinnati, he was playing guard. And he said he was coming out of the huddle laughing because it was the easiest thing of all time because bodies were just getting sent to your way. So when you have a tackle body and then you don't have to go get people, they're just kind of getting filtered to you. Yeah. That's dominance. That's why Mekhi Becton, whenever he moved to guard, was such a success.
Won the Super Bowl.
That's a huge transition though, for players, and like this is a big part of why it's a crapshoot in the draft, because you mentioned when you're outside of the building. I know for me, I don't know about you, for you AJ, that was the biggest adjustment for me, because in college everything was so structured. You knew where you need to be, when you need to be there, and then as a pro, once that season ends, it's kind of all on you. Okay, when do you schedule your workouts? When do you schedule vacations, family time, all these different things, and then you got to show up at this time of the year and OTAs and stuff and be in shape, because you don't want to be there tired or having soft tissue or having something like this, can't figure out and get on the field and get those valuable reps. So that is probably the biggest adjustment for becoming a pro. You hear be a pro, be a pro, be a pro. And it takes a lot of guys a couple years, a few years, maybe some good vets in their room, good coaches to kind of really bring them along and teach them.
That same word, maturity. You know, make the right decisions in the right situations.
Yeah.
And you're going to make the right choices and decisions in those situations to put yourself in the best chance to be successful.
Yeah. Maybe don't get arrested on a Tuesday.
Shit happens.
Yeah, it happens.
This bye week, coach. Talking about the draft being a like a crapshoot. First round hit rate. Hembo kind of gave us a stat. Hit rate means second contract with the team in which you draft. Interior offensive linemen, 60%. Offensive tackle, 60%. Feels like if you're going with a big guy, you can kind of tell if they're going to go. 6 out of 10 though.
Yeah.
Like that's not a definite, 60% whenever they talk about going for it on the little graphics, they act like that's 100%.
Right.
It is not. That is a quarterback less than 50%, linebacker less than 50%, edge defender 40% roughly, defensive tackle 40%, running back 37%, safety 34%, tight end and wide receiver both at 32%. You're not guaranteed a good player. And that's kind of the craziness of it all. Yeah, especially as of late, it feels like the wide receivers have gotten better. This is from 2000 to 2021. I assume if you were to do the last 7 years, maybe 6 years, the hit rate on wide receivers would be way up because of 7-on-7 and the way everything kind of went there. But over the last 21 years since the history of the draft, everybody says that the player's going to change their team. Being in a locker room, being a punter on special teams, depending on a lot of these guys that get drafted, there's a lot of ass football players somehow getting into the NFL. And whether it's off-field, lack of work ethic, or if it's not understanding ball at a level in which it has to, and maybe just not physically being able to keep up with what the NFL is, there's a lot of misses coming out of this draft tomorrow night. And I don't think it's fair that we just call everybody a bust. It's really hard to make it into the league, even if you're drafted in the first round. And I think that the perspective needs to kind of get shifted a little bit when everybody's just like, we'll get this guy, we win the Super Bowl. It's like, stats tell us this guy ain't going to be on your team in 4 years. So let's go ahead and just remember that. But also, there's a chance you find a Hall of Famer in there. There's a chance you find a staple and a pillar in there, which is why it's so damn special.
Well, and it's like, how do you classify bust? Because, Darius Hayward-Bay gets drafted in the top 10, and yeah, he may not have been the receiver everyone expect, but you talk glowingly about him all the time, about him being a Pro Bowl special teamer, So it's like, where is that line defined? By that account, he wasn't a Pro Bowl wide receiver, but he was crucial to you guys.
Well, he played a long time.
Exactly.
He went to Pittsburgh. They paid him like a lot of money to be a teamer.
A long time.
Yeah, but they would consider him a bust for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Love what he did, though. Go ahead, Coach.
Excellence is success over time. And, when you're a college player, your whole goal in life is to play in the NFL. So you have this built-in motivation. So it's about getting in the NFL, or is it about a standard of excellence once you get there? And I think that's what differentiates a lot of psychological disposition that these players have. So they don't just bust because of their athletic ability. They bust because they don't have the right psychological disposition to be motivated to be what they're capable of being. They lose their motivation because they just wanted to play in the NFL rather than being great in the NFL. And there's a difference.
Oh, definitely. Definitely a difference between having a cup of coffee and actually being a part of the NFL family forever with how long you're able to play. Do you think the NIL now, the kids are rich as teenagers, changes that a little bit? Because I think used to be goal, let's get to the NFL, we get a bag. We get money for the first time in our lives, especially if you're a first rounder. AJ Still.
My God.
Yeah.
AJ Still. Have you seen his house in Ohio? He's number 5 overall pick, old CBA. Old CBA. They gave him, he has this.
Yeah.
This is his house in Ohio.
Yeah.
Right here, because number 5 overall. But nowadays, these kids are making, $6.5 million?
Yeah.
Some of these first rounders are making at this point. Is that a good thing? I think it's a good thing because we know what people would do with money. Right? Don't you think that is kind of
I think that is definitely, you asked me about a guy like Proctor.
Mm-hmm.
There would be a bigger question in my mind if he never made any money in college. So how does money affect a guy like that?
Yes.
There's no question about that because he already has money. So I think that's a good thing.
I do. I think so too.
But I also think that it's kind of a two-way street. This is one of the older drafts because guys stay in college longer. There's less juniors that come.
All right, I'm going to pause it there. Well, actually, we'll finish this part because they speak to the thing that we started with this morning.
Out because they're making money. So you take away the whole financial incentive to come out early, which used to be financial, which no longer exists. Does that make sense?
Fascinatingly, yes, definitely.
So now you got some 20-year-old guys in the draft, and you got some 26-year-old guys in the draft. I think that's a huge difference in who you want on your team and how you want to develop them. Now, the good news is if guys are staying in college longer, that's good for their development because they're down the line guys are going to play and develop more in college than the opportunity they get in the NFL.
I think the NIL transfer.
Exactly what we were talking about earlier, Eric, and how the experience is a huge factor with guys that are a little bit older coming into the league. Now, the washout period is real because they're potentially not going to play as long as some of the younger guys, but in the injury component is a little bit tougher too. I think that players that play longer in college have been exposed to more hits, and we all know the numbers there. I do want to go back and highlight one thing. So the hit rate is what they often refer to when you look at players that stick around for a second contract. Okay. Brad's obviously done an excellent job. Now, whether he's hanging on to his guys too long and giving them a second contract or not, that's yet to be determined because we're just now getting to that period in his draft cycles where guys are getting re-signed over the last couple of seasons. But the hit rate for an interior offensive lineman to make it to a second contract, and this is from 2000 to 2021. I don't know why they only went to 21. Like you missed out on, 3. Well, no, I guess I understand it because 21 is the cutoff for players that are just now getting to their second contract. So it makes sense. But 21 years, only 60% of interior and interior offensive linemen and tackles get a second contract. Quarterbacks, 48%. Linebackers, 45%. Edge rushers, 41%. Defensive tackle, 40%. Running back, 37%. Cornerback, 37%. Safety, 34%. Tight end, 32%. And wide receiver, 32%. And so looking at this, he's signed a receiver. He signed a safety. He's about ready to sign a running back and a tight end, potentially the tight end, maybe not. He signed a defensive tackle. He signed an edge defender. He signed a linebacker. He signed a quarterback that he didn't draft, so that one doesn't count. He signed an offensive tackle. He has not done the interior yet. So Brad has already signed almost all but, 3 categories from his draft. So he's hit on every position so far with tight end, running back, cornerback, so that's 3, and quarterback because he hasn't drafted one, and interior. So 5 out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 5 out of 11 positions that they threw up on the board or who he has not signed yet. So that's a pretty impressive hit rate. Overall feeling on Caden Proctor after you listen to that?
Dude, nothing's going to change my mind right now. Proctor has the prototypical size. Now, there's a bunch of people in the comments. They're doing the same thing that the people on my social media are going about Proctor, saying that he's Aaron Gibson 2.0. No, he's not. Aaron Gibson was drafted by the Detroit Lions in 1999. He was a first-round pick, 27th overall, and he weighed 440 pounds when he was drafted.
100 pounds difference. 100 pounds difference.
He played at 410 pounds. That's 60 pounds more than what Proctor is right now. And how can you judge a player from 27 years ago versus a player now? Just listen, the game is completely different. You were talking about nutrition and doctors and the scans and everything they have to do now. They didn't have to do any of that stuff back then. Before 2000.
Just so what you're trying to say is, just the food alone, the medical, I mean, where the NFL is today, I mean, players are bigger, faster, stronger, right? Back then,
And-
440 pounds, nobody's playing at that weight and being successful. But
No, and look at their training facilities. Now the Lions have Allen Park now. They didn't have that back then. And listen, it's completely different. The NFL is a different landscape for the physicality of these players. It is made to make them into the best players possible. And everybody keeps comparing this kid to Aaron Gibson, and I think that is one of the most unfair analogies of all time, comparing him to that type of player.
So do me a favor in the chat. Where did this Aaron Gibson thing even start? Do you all know where this even started?
It's because he came in his freshman year.
That's not what I'm asking. It's not what I'm asking. I want to know the source. I want to know who started this rumor, because it is the most uneducated rumor.
Yeah.
I hope it's John Jansen. It's the most uneducated thing I've
Listen,
ever heard.
if you're listening to 97.1 to get
That's your first problem.
information for everything, they're there for clicks. They're not there to give you proper information. You tell me the last time John Jansen or anyone on 97.1 got anything right in the draft whatsoever.
Here, I'll say it again.
They complain about every draft pick we take.
Yeah, I'll get this video up today because it's important that I get it out today. It's ready. I just got to release it. Worst mock drafters ever. Okay, let me just give you guys. I'm going to say it for the third time this week. I think it's the third time. Worst mock drafters ever. Mel Kiper in 2025. Mel Kiper chose James Pierce to go to the Lions. Dane Brugler, Donovan Ezraku, Daniel Jeremiah, Donovan Jackson, Ryan McChrystal, the 8th highest rated mock drafter in history. Donovan Jackson, Brendan Donahue, 2nd highest mock drafter rated in history. Most accurate, Derek Harmon. Will Rock, Tyleek Williams. 2nd pick, Tate Ratledge. So you tell me whose hit rate's higher. And I'm not even getting paid millions of dollars to do this. So you give me a team of people and researchers and analysts like they have that loft all this stuff up for them, little softballs of information, and then they can run with it. You give me that type of a backing, and we'll see how far we can take this. Now, I'm not trying to be conceited or brag or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, the hit rate is real. And my hit rate is astronomical compared to all of these guys. Now, primarily for Lions picks, right? I think, what was the number I had the other day? Was it 9 or 11 of the last 3 drafts I've hit, right? 5 in 23, 2 or 3 in 24, and at least 2 in 25. First, second, third round, or fourth round picks I've hit. And that's insane. Nobody does that. Nobody. But the reason why I think I'm able to do that is because I do it without bias. I do it because I'm not getting paid, right? If once you're getting paid and you've got all this influence and all this noise in your ear, things change. And so mine may change if that influence comes or the noise comes. But right now, I don't really have it. I just do things out of the love and passion, and I try to give you the real, honest, transparent takes and information. I spend godly amounts of hours watching film and doing research to try to give you the best information. Why? Because I'm sick and tired of the narratives. Is the draft is supposed to be fun, right?
Yes.
And it's not fun when you have people that are just narrative drivers.
Yeah.
So that's why we started doing this.
And incorrect information. So like Phoenix in the chat says, the connection is weight. Come on, fellas. How many tackles in the NFL are 380 pounds? Well, Caden Proctor, I'm sorry to tell you, is not 380 pounds. He was at the combine and weighed in at 348 pounds, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was 348 the day before his official weigh-in. It was 352 the day that he weighed in.
Yeah, so tell me what all the other tackles are weighing in at. Basically the same.
320, 325.
Yeah.
Hold on here. That's the wrong Proctor.
And everybody is in love with this Monroe Freeling. Well, Monroe Freeling's played 18 games in college. Tell me how 18 games in college is going to translate into the NFL. I just don't think it's going to. I think he's too inexperienced to be going to the NFL. He's coming out too early. He should have stuck around and played another year.
It may not be. It may not be that it's too early. I just feel like exactly. And I was just writing. It's funny. I was just writing all that down, Eric, as we were speaking. Look, I just
Yeah.
started writing how many years and how many snaps they've had,
Yeah.
because I think it's less about
He's not proven to me. Freeling not proven to me, and everyone, Jansen and every friggin' drafter from here to Timbuktu is all taking Freeling to the Lions.
I'll be honest. Look, they might take Freeling, and there's nothing wrong with taking Freeling if Borum is your starter, and I think that's how it would go down. And it's just like, okay, it's just like drafting Mendoza and bringing in Kirk Cousins. You're bringing in a guy that's going to start from day one,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're going to bring in, the guy that's the eventual starter. And if something happens with Borum, they may move a little bit earlier. That's exactly the same thing. So again, for all the people that think that Caden Proctor is, a 10 cheeseburger guy, maybe he is, maybe he is not. But at the end of the day, when he's asked to do something, he does it. And so let me just show you. I'm going to put it on screen just so we can dispel this rumor, this false rumor once again. That seems to happen every single year. Here's Caden Proctor's combine information. Okay, this is what the NFL puts out. What does that say?
I can't read it. It's too small.
There you go. 352 pounds.
There you go.
Now you tell me another guy that's 352 pounds that was able to jump. What was his vert? 32 and a half inches was a new record.
Yep.
Was a new record at 352. So a guy that can jump, that tells you explosion, right? Your vertical is explosion. He ran a 5.21 40. He's been lower than that. He didn't run as fast as he wanted to. But let's look up somebody else. Let's tell me another name to look up.
Let's say that the Lions look at Freeling. Say the Lions want to take Proctor, and by August they want him down 20 pounds. You're telling me they can't hire a chef and a physical therapist and get this guy down 20 pounds?
He's already down. See, that's the good thing, is he's going to start OTAs at 352 or 355, wherever he is, under 360.
Yeah, but he could be down to 330. We don't know.
He could.
It's been 2 months since the combine. He could be working to get himself down.
It would be insane if he was. Now, Monroe Freeling has, the extremely long arms, right? He's got the gifted ability of having, or the gifted arm length at least. Caden is like an inch shorter.
Didn't Freeling have some awesome RAS score too? And that's what people are blowing up about.
But what was Amon-Ra St. Brown's RAS score?
Yeah, 14.
5.63, I think it was 5.63, 5.65.
Yeah.
That was Amon-Ra St. Brown's RAS score. Throw the RAS score out the window with the bathwater, okay? Because the RAS is worthless. The combine 40-yard dash for Monroe Freeling was 4.93, and he was also at 315, so 38 pounds lighter. And the thing you got to worry about Freeling is he has no ass. He doesn't have tree trunks for legs. He's top heavy. He has high pads all the time when he comes out at the attack point. And look, he's just not impressive. He's not impressive. He had a vertical jump of 33 and a half inches. Caden Proctor's was 32 and a half at 40 pounds heavier. His broad jump was 9.7, and Caden Proctor's was, hold on, drum roll please, 9.1. So a whole 6 inches difference.
Yeah.
A whole 6 inches. 10-yard split for Proctor was 1.84. Freeling, I think, was 1.79 or 1.71. Where's he at? 1.71. Not that big of a difference. I mean, you're asking these guys to climb to the second and third level, and Proctor's been able to do that his entire career. The good news is you can put him in at guard. And if you have Larry Borum right now starting at right tackle, that's not a bad thing. You put Caden Proctor in at left guard, we're immediately one of the best offensive lines in the league. Day one. And it doesn't mean he can't progress to go to the outside. Now, I know that Jeff Dean had mentioned that oftentimes that doesn't happen. When they start inside, they stay inside. But it has happened. To a lesser extent, does it happen often? But it has happened.
Do you feel that the Lions are going to move Sewell to the left, though?
Right now, no.
I don't think they're going to. I don't think they want to. I think they're just using
That's a smoke.
The whole at the combine and after the combine talking about it to throw people off because they're doing so much work on offensive tackles that they just don't want people to know what they're up to.
Yeah, I would agree.
You know,
937. So I'm going through some of the snap counts here. You know, and I've got a few players already. I'm just going to put in a rough number for some of these, but some of these are just going to be rough numbers. The reason why, you know, I read somewhere in the chat that someone said that you know Freeling was the most polished, or that Caden Proctor wasn't polished. Caden Proctor is one of the most polished players in this draft.
Yeah.
As far as offensive linemen, Blake Miller, the player that no one's talking about for the Lions, at least not a lot of people have, he might be the play for the Lions because he is the most polished. He 955 as a freshman, 827 in his second year, 858 in his third year. He's probably the most polished when it comes to tackles. Caleb Lomu, only 2 seasons. He had 800 snaps last year, 770 the year before. And then Monroe Freeling, only 2 seasons. 881 last year, 606 the year before. If you're looking at a guard, Neone, 3 seasons, 570, 937, and 600. Fano, only 2 years. Let me go back to Fano.
Hey, Will, your volume dipped.
My volume dipped?
Yeah. They said mine's good. Yours dipped a little bit.
Uh-oh.
You know, and you were speaking about Blake Miller there for a second. And that's what I'm talking about. If we go after Blake Miller, then you are moving Penei Sewell from the right to the left because Blake Miller is a right tackle, not a left tackle.
Yeah, I don't see anything different with my volume. Maybe I wasn't speaking into the mic.
Okay.
So I don't have the proximity mic anymore. I've got this mic.
Yeah.
So for Blake Miller, for Fano, he only has 2 seasons at right tackle, 1 at left tackle, but he played 3 seasons. So if you look at the most polished guys from tackle, you'd probably put Fano at number 1, Miller at number 2 for right now until you look at Caden Proctor. All right? Caden Proctor, 3 straight years at left tackle. 963 last year, 639 in 24, 806 in 23. SEC, Alabama. So if you're going to compare a player that went up against the absolute best defenses that you could ever see in college football, it's Caden Proctor. Second to that would be Blake Miller. Third to that would be Utah. That's how the cookie crumbles. Oh, you could put Monroe Freeling. I'm sorry. It would go Caden Proctor, Monroe Freeling, Blake Miller, Spencer Fano, in that order from best defenses seen last year or the last 3 seasons. But in order from most polished players that have the most snaps and have seen the best defenses, it's going to go Proctor, Miller, Fano, and then Freeling. That matters. Experience matters. So let's get back to the funness of this. Y'all are going to take the players you love. And here's the fun part about this. Nobody knows anything until it picks in, right? Until we actually hear who the Lions are taking, none of this really even matters. So until this happens, we're just going to give you the truth, honesty, and transparency about every player that we've worked up. The other thing that I'll mention, too, is, you know, a lot of people have a lot of opinions. And there's nothing wrong with having opinions. I have a ton of opinions every day. But I've also backed it up, right? I've backed it up with thousands of hours of work in research and writing and film. And not a lot of people do that. Again, I don't get paid to do this. So I do it all for the love of the game. I have passion to do it at a much deeper level, and there's future for that. But right now, doing it as an independent, I'm doing it, you know, just for the love of the game to hopefully start to steer more positivity into the Lions Nation and not the negativity. Because there's a lot of people that are on there every day that have never watched one lick of film. Not one lick of film. And it's evident.
Yeah.
It's evident. You know, the regurgitators, the people that, you know, use other reporters or other journalists for their information as opposed to them getting their own information, they're not watching film. They're just regurgitating stuff.
And I didn't see them at the combine.
Exactly. And you know what? You don't. I guess you don't have to be at the combine to watch film, but there's a lot of information to be gathered there.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't even ask questions when they're at the combine. Like that. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, when everybody else is asking questions, a lot of times they're asking the question that you would ask anyway.
Sometimes. All right, but I'm going to go with, Nick Saban, obviously the former Alabama head coach, had him for 1 year, and that was his worst year. That was Proctor's worst year. He came in, and so what Saban can refer to here is when he came in at 390, almost 400 pounds his freshman year. But when he was asked to drop weight, he dropped weight, and he got in shape. The thing about the NFL is it's 365. There is no, time off other than pretty much end of May till June, the end of June, first week of July. And that's about it. But for rookies, I mean, right after the draft, they go into rookie camp. And then they're in camp for 3 to 4 weeks, and then they have a break. And then they come back for the summer camp. And then they go into training camp. And there's no days off. There's no days off after your first year because you have to train for the combine. So Proctor's in the best shape of his life right now. And that's a great thing going into your first season. All rookies are projects.
We haven't heard a single report that his weight is slipping back up or that he's missing workouts or anything bad. We haven't heard a word about anything like that.
And you know where you would hear that? The top 30 visits. So when you have a top 30 visit with a player and they come in and every single one of them gets measured and they get weighted. I mean, there's all different things. Sometimes the coaches don't even meet with them. Sometimes the GM doesn't meet with them. Sometimes they just go to training facility to go meet with, physical therapists or doctors or whatever. They might just be calling you in just to see, are they in shape? Are they staying in shape? It's been, over a month since the combine. How are they doing? Those are the questions that get answered. But I haven't heard anything either. I haven't heard anything negative. Not one thing. If anything, it's only been positive. I mean, why all of a sudden does Daniel Jeremiah go from having Caden Proctor outside of his top 50 to all of a sudden the Lions pick at 17? Remember, I told y'all to pay attention to that. A lot of players have moved, but all of a sudden, Proctor is the name at the Lions, and it's been the last week and a half. And it hasn't changed for me. It's been Proctor, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the pick. Anything can happen in this draft. Anything. I still think safety is pretty important. Let's get into a quick break. We'll be right back, and then we're going to get into the rest of the show. Got a lot to cover still yet today. Do Glazier, Eric.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
That's a big-time play.
All right, Jay Glazer had a mouthful to say as usual, but honestly, it was an empty mouth or empty words because he says a whole bunch of nothing, it seems like, every year. And I don't know. I mean, I guess I could come out every day and say something big is going to happen. I just can't say what it is. Well, it's the draft. A lot of big things are about to happen, buddy. What did Glazer say?
So he said that I know something that's going on. I just can't say it yet. So I was told you can't say it until, we're kind of getting on the clock there. So I'm going to tell you this. When the Lions are on the clock, something big is going to happen. That's basically.
They're going to draft the guy in the first round.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh, my God.
Or.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's think about it.
Well, and then he comes out this morning. It comes out that I'm pretty sure I'm kind of connecting some dots here because it came out. I found this morning that he says Ty Simpson will be a first round pick.
Yeah.
So I think that is his big surprise. Okay. I think it would be a surprise if he said that a third quarterback was going to make its way into.
But what
the
does
first
that have
round.
to do with the Lions?
Yeah. Nothing.
When the Lions are on the clock, something big is going to happen. That's what he said?
No, not the Lions. He just said when a certain team is on the clock.
Oh, I could have sworn you just said the Lions.
Oh, no, I said I could say that is what I said.
I got you. Okay.
I said I could say that about any team.
Here's what he said.
What is the juiciest bone that you're chewing on right now that you're hearing a rumor that just won't die?
No, I know something that's going on. I just can't say it yet because I was told you can't say it. Told we're kind of getting on the clock there. But it's an interesting draft. By the way,
what is the juiciest bone that you're chewing on right now that you're hearing a rumor that just won't die?
No, I know something that's going on. I just can't say it yet because I was told you can't say it. Told we're kind of getting on the clock there.
I'm going to say this again. For anybody that hasn't watched this, it's the same exact feeling that I got the last time he had something to say. What was that about? What was that rumor that he pumped the last time?
Max Crosby.
Yeah, the Max Crosby thing, right? And his mouth is all jaw-jacking. Like, if you know what I'm saying, he's jaw-jacking. And I don't know what's going on there, if anything's going on there, but he's just a weirdo, man.
Wasn't he the one that came out and basically said that Max Crosby
was coming to Detroit?
That the Lions, he said the Lions were interested in bringing Max Crosby in. And now it came out, the Lions were never, ever in on Max Crosby. That's what Rod Wood said.
You know what's funny about that?
What's that?
I told everybody that.
Yeah, I know. It's the same thing we've been spewing forever.
I told everybody that, but I didn't just tell them as an opinion. I told them I had intel, and the intel was that the Lions were never involved. But then articles kept coming out that sources were saying the Lions are on the phone, and the Lions were going to trade 2 first-round picks, but Terry and Arnold screwed it all up. But I kept trying to tell y'all it was never real.
Yeah. Well,
and
Terry,
I've got to be clear. I've got to be careful because, just like I've been saying, like with this whole change of what the Lions are doing, the whole change the Lions are doing. I said it yesterday that I kind of feel like I don't want to say I'm responsible because I don't think that's the case at all. But when you tend to get a lot right and people notice it, they may not tell you they notice it. But why did they just change everything? Right. And when you have sources, like legit sources, like last year when I said Skipper was going to make the team, or was it the year before, whatever. I think it was last year. The Skipper was going to make, or he's going to be back. And everyone was saying, oh, Will's a liar. This is all fake. There's no sources, yada, yada, yada.
Oh, yeah, that was last year.
Yeah, you got to put sources. You can't just have one source. Yeah, well, if your one source is actually a pretty damn good source, that's all that matters, right? But it ended up being true. And so instead of them coming back and saying, man, I'm sorry, I guess I misjudged you. I guess you do have a couple of people that know a few things. My bad. No, instead they kept pressing the gas. right? And gaslighting and going out and saying a whole bunch of other shit. So when I try to tell you guys, I tell you all the time, if I use the term my guy or sources or source, I use it rarely, but believe in it. It's been almost true 100% of the time. And I don't like using it because I feel like my guy's going to get figured out.
We're all going to be crushed tonight. You want to know why? Because the Lions are going to trade for Max Crosby tonight.
They could. they could. You never know, man. They could. And look, that would be great. That would be great. I would blow up the salary cap. We get a guy that's got a degenerative knee, number 2, and you better win this year because if you don't, it's all over. And Dan and Brad are done. I guarantee it. I mean, but they're entering the final years of their contracts. So they've got to go big at some point. If they don't get re-upped here pretty soon, then they might have to push everything into the middle. And then what happens? Then we're screwed for the next 5 years.
I thought they were signed through 2029.
I think it's 28. I think it's 28.
I thought it was with Jared Goff. I thought they had the same till 2029. Brad and Dan were the same, I thought. Because wasn't Dan's original deal a 6-year deal, and then they added 3 years on?
So according to this, Brad Holmes is under contract through 2027.
Oh, okay.
And Dan should be the same point. And, yeah, Goff is, a couple years after that, right? No, I think Goff is the same, but when they restructure his contract, it might have added a year. I don't remember, dude. There's so many numbers. But either way, yeah, I thought it was 27 for both of them. 27 and 28 or 27. So, yeah, they're entering the final years of their deal. You know, like next year is it. So they're going to have to be re-upped or maybe we will see a big move because.
Let's make it happen right now.
Yeah. Interesting.
Win a Super Bowl and everybody gets new contracts.
So Glazer said a whole bunch of nothing.
Yep.
As usual. But now the other big news that has just been running roughshod, you know, it kind of started with Peter Schrager predicting in a new mock draft out Wednesday that the Lions could find a way to move up from 17. So I think, Eric, you brought this one in this morning. Do you want to speak to it?
Yeah. So what he predicted was pretty darn close to what I did in my mock draft for my final one. So he says that the Lions and the Rams do a little trade. And he said the Rams get number 17, our first round pick this year, number 118 this year, and a 2027 second round pick. And the Lions get number 13. Now, they go on to say, yeah, this is a little bit rich for a 4-spot move, but it's basically what I had minus the 118. And then they say, but he has the Lions doing it to draft the big offensive tackle out of Alabama, Caden Proctor. And this is what Schrager said. Taylor Decker was released and Proctor is still sitting there. So general manager Brad Holmes might call up his old team and see if the Rams are open for business. Proctor would be a huge presence, 6'7", 352 pounds at the left tackle for Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions offense. And taking a left tackle would mean Penei Sewell could stay on the right side. Hey, that's everything we were just saying. We'd love to see Penei stay on the right side, and we get a 20-year-old left tackle that can be our left tackle for the next 10 years. Moving up 4 spots and giving away basically a second round pick and a late round and 118, a 4th round pick. Perfect. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. And I love that he picked Caden Proctor. So this is a national pundit. This isn't a local guy. This isn't someone with any ties to the team. I really like this deal.
Oh, hold on here. So Robbie says in the chat, he says Decker requested his release. Detroit didn't straight up cut him. Did you say cut?
Let's see this is what Schrager said. Now
what Schrager said is that he was released.
Yeah,
you didn't say cut though, did you?
No.
Yeah.
No, I said Taylor Decker was released.
Yeah. So I don't know where the word cut came from.
That was a quote.
Yeah, that was a quote from Peter Schrager. He says again, Taylor Decker was released and Proctor is still sitting there. I went through all of the draft scenarios as far as draft trade scenarios. I will try to get this put up today. I totally totally forgot that I was going to give it to everyone so that they had a pretty good idea of what these trades could look like. Hopefully my volume's better. I didn't hear a volume issue listening back to it on my phone, but I just upped it a little bit. Hopefully I'm not going the other way. But I guess the big thing here is what is trade value in this case for the 17th pick moving up to 13? And what I've been trying to emphasize the last 2 weeks here is that it's been a third-round pick. Moving from 17 to 13 is a third-round pick. In this draft, because there are so few top-end players, it could be just a little bit richer. Now, if you don't have a third-round pick, it's a future second. So in this case, that's what Schrager did. And I said the exact same thing yesterday. 17, a fourth, future second for 13. Makes a lot of sense. If they can somehow pull this, where the Lions end up with a third-round pick, then you could trade a third and still move up, and you don't have to give anything else up typically. But even to move one spot in the first round, you're looking at a fourth-round pick. To move 2 to 3 spots, you're looking at a third-round pick. To move 4 to 5 to 6 spots, you're looking at a third-round pick and probably a fourth or a future fourth. Teams want third-round picks this year. They want mid-third-round picks this year. And I would say that that's where the Lions need to be too. I hope that they package a bunch of stuff up and move. I really do. I hope that they move up and we get as many picks as we can inside the top 100 because it's talent devoid after the fact. There's a couple of spots that I'm going to call hot spots. Next year, I'm going to have a map. It's going to be a heat map that we're going to put together. I'm actually working with somebody now on it to help develop it for my website, but it's going to be a heat map that will kind of tell us where the hot spots are in the draft. And hot spots are not good spots. Hot spots are the bad spots, where you don't want to be picking. So it's something that this whole playbook that I'm trying to write for next year, I failed this year. I didn't do as much as I wanted to simply because I bit off way more than I could chew. But hopefully we'll have more of a team next year doing more things. So I guess for me, Eric, do we need to move up to 13 to get Proctor? Probably. But I don't know that Proctor's going to be on the board. I did a mock the other day that I submitted, and I'll just be straight up with you guys. I think that Proctor could be the first or second offensive lineman taken off the board. And the reason boils down to Maui Noah. What is going on with Maui Noah's back? So let's shift gears here to go more. I know you got about 30 minutes left to go more draft talk. We'll have a lot of draft talk tonight, obviously in the first hour and a half before the draft even starts. But what are the big concerns for me? Well, in my top 36, is there anything else pressing that you wanted to add today?
Just that, remember, you have to remember that Caden Proctor, he's had some top 30 visits with almost every team picking ahead of the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
So the Cardinals, the Eagles, there's a whole bunch of teams. And I saw a mock this morning from a very prominent person that put the Eagles moving up to 15 and taking Caden Proctor. So I've seen him as high as 10. I've seen it all over the board. But don't be surprised if he goes very early and he's either the first or the second offensive lineman taken in the draft. What if he's taken at 8, 9, 10?
Yeah, and that's where I'm going to go to right now. So
would not surprise me one bit.
Here's the mini beast. We're going to get into it here. I'll be right back.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
Okay. The mini beast, appropriately labeled because there's a lot of information in here and a ton of information that it takes a lot to put together. Now, I've rewritten all of my analysis on these players 2 or 3 or 4 times now, and published it, whether it's single articles for a top 25 or the top 50. Now we've got the top 36. This is something unique that I do. I don't see anybody else doing it, but I bet you we'll have some ankle biters next year. The top 36 to me is the top 36 players that I feel could go in the first round. And there's going to be a couple of players that I missed on, 100%. There's going to be some players that are valued by teams that maybe we just don't see. And I think a lot of that's going to happen late in the first round. There's going to be some players that just somehow make their way in. First and foremost, let's remind everybody that the DFJ Sports Mock Draft Pool. Go to pickpool.app, create your account. It's free. Search Detroit Football Journal in the private section. Enter the password DFJ Sports 11 exclamation. Yes, that's right. It's all caps. You get one entry, make it count. You can join to play for free or donate $5 to the Rock Down Cancer Foundation if you want to enter to win a jersey. And whoever wins the mock draft wins the jersey. If we have two people with the same number, well, then we'll have to do something different. We'll just have to split up the money between everybody. More details at buymeacoffee/ or buymeacoffee.com/rocked on. NFL Draft Live tonight. Probably going to start around 6:30, no later than 7. Live all draft long on YouTube, of course, and we'll be doing giveaways and raffles throughout every event. Number 1, Jeremiah Love. He's been my consensus number 1 since day one. Again, this is a predictive model. It's rankings model, and it's rankings model with a little bit of predictiveness to it. There's a lot of key factors about him, but I'm just going to give you my take. He's the undisputed number 1, or RB1 and number 1 player in this draft class. Plug and play, 3-down starter. He mirrors pure velocity of Jahmyr Gibbs, but he brings a denser frame built to survive interior NFL traffic by forcing defensive coordinators into pre-snap alignment conflicts, which conflict is huge. He represents the most versatile and explosive backfield asset in this draft, and probably in the last 10 years. I mean, you have a few guys, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson. He's the next. His value is locked in day one, top 5. I mean, there's very few and far between do I see that he's taken anywhere outside of the top 5. Eric, is he top 5, top 7? Quick 10 seconds on each one of these guys.
So Jeremiah Love, dude, I think he's top 2.
Could be. There's a case for that too.
I don't be surprised if Jeremiah Love goes number 2 overall and someone moves up with the Jets.
And that's a big. There's some information on that. There's rumors, intel that the Jets have been wanting to move off of number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, they really love Bailey, and that's all a smokescreen. But number 2 for me is Sonny Styles. I think that Sonny Styles is the best athlete out of the top 5 guys not named Jeremiah Love.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't replicate 6'5", 10-inch hands, almost 33-inch arms as a linebacker. No change for me. He's been at number 2 pretty much the entire time. What I like about him, he's obviously a premier defensive asset in this class because he solves real NFL problems. He can cover, he can blitz, he can tackle, he plays in space, and at size, most linebackers cannot match. Jack Campbell was like the how do I put it? He was like the pure linebacker of old linebacking class, if I even said that right. Back in the 90s, early 2000s, linebackers are big, and that's kind of gone away. Linebackers have been getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Jack was like a guy you don't see, 6'5", 240 pounds. You just don't see linebackers that big anymore. Well, now they're starting to come back. They're starting to get taller, longer, and bigger. And that's because they're getting faster and faster and faster. The key is deployment for him. Like, keep him clean, let him run. You don't force him into a static stack and shed roll every snap. If a coordinator uses him as a free-flowing multi-role weapon, this is a premium 3-down starter with top 10 value. I think he's gone in the top 7 or 8. There is a case where he doesn't go, 2, 3, 4, depending on what happens at the, with some trades. David Bailey, at number 3 for me, third best prospect in this class. He's a top-tier edge on my board because the most valuable part of his game already looks NFL ready. This is a defender who changes protection plans before every snap. He creates real stress with speed, bend, and sequencing. He may never be a true power-based edge setter. Like, he's not a Keldrick Falk, but that is not why you draft this guy anyway. You draft him because high-end pass rush tends to win games, and Bailey has legitimate double-digit sack upside with immediate impact value on passing downs. So with both of these guys, Eric, Bailey at 3, Styles at 2, would you make any changes here? What would you do?
Not really. I think these guys are all so close up at the top. You know, even putting Arvell Reese up with these two, 1, 2, and 3, as far as the top 3 defenders, there's not much difference between them. You know what I mean? There's not one that's like 100 points better than the next one.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much difference as far as talent. It's just position, right? I mean,
yeah,
you got Styles as a backer, Bailey as the edge, and then Arvell Reese at number 4 for me. He's a mixture of both. You get a little bit of both with Arvell Reese, and I think that the real conversation here is, I mean, what do you get from Reese that you don't get from Bailey? What do you get from Bailey that you don't get from Reese? And then the same thing with Styles. What does Styles do that is unique to Reese and Bailey? And I think that Reese over time is going to be the better football player than Bailey, but he's not going to be the better edge rusher than Bailey. I think that Reese is more deployable in multiple, different facets of a defense, and I think he brings a lot more versatility. You can put him as an off-ball linebacker, and you can drop him into coverage. You can also put him up on the line and have him rush the quarterback. And he's just learning. Like, he's just learning the pass rush toolbox. His toolbox is still developing. Reese is one of the premier traits bets in the draft. And I would rather bet on this kind of movement profile than chase a safer but lower ceiling defender. He brings immediate sub-package value because of the speed, the range, the pressure, and the versatility that already translates. The long-term question is whether the processing and rush detail catch up enough for him to become a true every down difference maker. If they do, this is the kind of front 7 weapon you can tilt protection plans and become a top 10 caliber defensive piece. Ceiling is super high for Reese. The floor is medium, but he's coming in with a lot left to learn and a lot left to give. Then number 5. So my top 5 to round out top 5 is Caleb Downs. Typically wouldn't have this guy in the top 5. I've had him anywhere from 12 on out. And last projected, he was at number 12. So he moves up 7 spots. And on the SIS big board, he was at number 3. Let me wind back. I didn't tell that about every player. Arvell Reese was number 3. I had him dropping back 1. SIS board is number 4. So we align now, which is kind of odd. This has changed from yesterday. A lot of players moved. Number 3 for Bailey, he was my number 4. He moves up a board. SIS is number 2. And Sonny Styles, SIS board number 5. This is no change for me. He's been at number 2 the whole time. So with Caleb Downs, you love a lot about what this guy does. Ton of versatility here. He's played anywhere from free safety and up. Lesser extent at free safety, more strong and more near the box, more near the line or more in the box near the line of scrimmage. And I think that's where he's going to end up being at the next level. And there's been a lot of consensus on that. I know that it differs from a lot of people, but or some people's takes, but the higher NFL analyst consensus will tell you this guy's a strong safety, and he'll be up near the line of scrimmage on the majority of downs. My take on him is simple, man. He's one of the smartest defenders in this class, and that really translates immediately on Sunday. He's not built like a prototype, but he plays faster than everyone else because he sees it first. This is a day one starter who elevates communication. He'll tighten coverage windows, and he brings stability to the middle of a defense. For teams valuing instincts and versatility, he's the player with long-term impact written all over him. But again, I love his projection as a strong safety, working up near the line of scrimmage, and I think he's going to be fun to watch as long as he stays healthy. The knee issue worries me a little bit. The concern is whether those reports are going to be valid or are they hit pieces, right? That's the one thing that we'll never know. So out of my top 5, would you make any changes here?
I would just ask, are you turning into an Ohio State fan? You have 3 Ohio State defenders in the top 5. And if Ohio State had 3 defenders in the top 5 of the 2026 draft, why didn't they win a national championship? What held them back? It couldn't have been their defense.
You're looking at this a little bit different. So what you're stating is a predictive mock. This is a rankings mock.
No. I'm just saying, how did they not win a multiple championships with 3 players that are, ranked in the top 5?
I mean, they came close, didn't they?
Okay.
Didn't they win it the year before?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So when you look at the top draft rankings, I'll flip one open here. Matt Miller. This was on April 17. He has Love, Mendoza, Downs, Reese, Styles, then Bailey. Carnell Tate's at number 9. I just have 3 in the top 5. I think that they're out of the top 5, they're the top 3 best players.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're at 5, 4, and 2 best players, best athletes, best players in this draft. Number 6, Carnell Tate. So there's your 4th.
Surprise, surprise! Another Ohio State player.
You're gonna have
first one on offense.
You're probably gonna have 4 of these guys go in the top 10.
Probably.
There's hardly any models that predict a top 12 for all 4. A lot of them are going top 10. But hey, weirder things have happened. Carnell Tate is a huge wild card here for me. So let me just go down. This take is a little bit different. You're going to see these sprinkled in, this beast, where I go a little bit deeper and I tell you a little bit more as to why. Tate is one of the safest receiver evaluations in this class because the game already looks translatable. He's not a pure traits bet. He's not going to scare defenses with raw speed, but he understands how to uncover, how to finish, and how to become a quarterback's steady answer on the money downs. For me, this is the kind of receiver who may not test like a top 5 weapon, yet he still ends up being one of the most useful pros from the group because his game is built on detail, control, and trust. In the right offense, he feels like an immediate starter with high volume wide receiver 2 value and enough polish to outplay his draft slot. First, he has elite reliability. 0 drops, strong contested catch production, polished route pacing give him one of the cleaner floors in the class. Second, 4.53 speed. Modest run after the catch value and press strength concerns are the biggest reasons some teams may prefer more dynamic athletes like Mekhi Lemon or Tyson, that maybe are a little bit shifty, a little bit quicker. But again, I'm going to go back to the top 12 list I did the other day. All of the top 12 receivers last year in the NFL, 9 of them ran a 4.5 or slower. So if you are exactly what I think he is, he's crisp in his routes. He's very strong at the catch point. He's reliable with catching the football. And he's polished in his route pacing. And so if you can put all those things together, your 4.53 speed doesn't matter because that's exactly what Amon-Ra St. Brown does. He paces everybody, right? And he runs his routes so clean that you can't stick to him. One of the third pieces here is the league clearly values him. He continues to show up in top 10 to mid-first round mock discussions, especially for teams needing a dependable outside target. I think he's also going to play on the inside in the slot quite a bit, especially with some tight splits. Best teams, fits, and picks. Cleveland Browns at number 6. I would not be surprised here if they take him at number 6 if he's still there. They need someone on the outside, whether it's for Deshaun Watson or Shadur Sanders, they need somebody that they can trust. And I do believe that Cleveland is going to feel that they can get an offensive lineman later in the draft, or they may do a couple of other things that I'll talk about later on today. The Commanders at number 7, huge fit here. This offense can still use another reliable weapon, and especially to support, what is still a young quarterback in Jaden Daniels. Adding another starter caliber receiver here would really deepen their room. And then the Jets or the Giants at 10 or 5. If Carnell Tate is staring them in the face at number 5, I think he's gone. The Giants make sense because they still need another trustworthy outside weapon as well, and they can afford to lean too heavily, or they can't afford to lean too heavily on just one playmaker in Malik Neighbors. Now, I know it sounds kind of odd that, well, they have Neighbors, Will. Why would you take Tate? Well, Neighbors is only going to get older and more expensive, and Tate would be able to run up behind him, and by the time he gets to his second contract, Neighbors is going to be into his third, I think he'll be into his third by then. Maybe. No, he'll be into his second. But he's only going to get more expensive. And maybe the Giants don't want to pay him. So you bring in Tate now, you have him under a rookie contract, and he grows right alongside with Neighbors. You got 2 viable weapons. I mean, that's just crazy to me to see that in that offense with Jackson Dart.
Yeah, and you need more than one wide receiver.
You do. I mean, you need a complement, right? You need to complement your other guys.
Yeah.
Draft range. Round 1. I have the heat map 5 to 12. I think he's as early with the Giants. He could go as early as the Cardinals. Again, trades are going to be the defining factor of where these players go ultimately, and it's going to screw everything up because I feel like a lot of teams are going to try to trade back even a couple of picks, and then that'll change the course of the entire draft. So I think the Giants are players, and maybe I should put here at number 5 or number 10, because if he's there at 10, he's not going to be there at 11. Maui Noah. So I dropped him. Oh, back to Tate. Sorry. Where did I have him before? Previously, I had him at number 8. I don't know what SIS has him on the big board. I forgot to look. But I have him moving up 2 spots. Maui Noah. You know, where I was really confident with this guy, I had him at number 6. I only dropped him 1 spot. That should actually be a down arrow.
Wow.
I dropped him 1 spot, and I honestly, I probably could have dropped him 5 or 6 more spots. And I was tempted to.
I personally think he may drop even further.
Well, that's where I'm going to go to here. Let me fix this real quick.
He may drop down to the Lions at even if they stick and pick at 17, because if this back issue is as bad as they are saying, whether it's giving him trouble or not, may be enough to scare teams away.
I think that's exactly what I wrote in this. Same thing. That's the case for Maui Noah. You kick him inside, you're getting a plug-and-play guard with Pro Bowl, all-pro upside. And I think that is the number one place that I would put him. I'd put him in at guard, especially with the back issue. I'd put him in at guard. He can stabilize that line immediately. You leave him at right tackle, and you're betting that his power and his timing and his balance can continue to hold up against NFL speed and all the interior games that get played. For me, the value is still strong because this is one of the safer blockers in the class when he's viewed correctly. However, as you just mentioned, the back issue may push him down a few spots, but the tape still says early impact starter with top 15 caliber value. I have him sliding as far back as 15. I don't think he's going to slide any further than that. And if he does, then there is more medical issues than we know about. So the back is the primary thing here that, like I mentioned up here, the latest report around a herniated disc creates some sort of a risk of a modest slide, but it does not erase how pro-ready the tape looks. If the medicals check out, he still carries one of the safer floors in the class. Next up at number 8, Mansour Delane. He jumped up 1 spot, a whole spot. Previously, I had him ranked at 8 or 9. SIS has him at 8. We align a lot in the top. I mean, the top is chalk, right? The top 12 picks, a lot of this stuff is chalk. Only 22 years old. He has requisite size. I think Delane is one of the cleanest cover corners in this class, and I trust the tape over the measurables. He's not built like a prototype, but then again, I think he has requisite height, weight, speed, all that good stuff. When you go back and look at his size, or not the weight. The weight's the only thing that scares me. 5'11 and 3/4. I mean, he's so close to prototype. The 180, if that was 190, I would feel a lot better. But then you got to go watch the tape. And on tape, his weight wasn't a deciding factor. He does get pushed around a little bit off the line of scrimmage, so that is one reason to be a little bit concerned, but he's going to have to thrive in his speed element, right? Not up there pressing, not up there jamming off the line of scrimmage. He's probably going to play a little bit more off at times and then utilize his speed to be able to stay in phase and to manage the bigger receivers. He may also not even be on the outside. They may kick him on the inside, where I think that he'll be extremely good on the inside. But we'll see with whoever takes him where he goes. The 31-inch arms, I mean, this is a reason why he's so disruptive. He's able to get long at the catch point. Anyway, not built like a prototype, but he consistently erases routes with technique and awareness. This is a day one starter who gives you alignment flexibility and coverage stability. And in a league that values coverage versatility, he is a top 10 caliber defender with immediate impact and long-term reliability. What is your take on those few players there? Delane, you already talked about Maui Noah and Tate.
Yeah, Delane, I really, really like this kid, Mansour. I was even telling my wife about his name, and you know, I was telling her how some of these guys have some very unique names that are in the draft this year, and trying to say some of them. And but Mansour Delane, man, this kid, I think he's pro ready. I think he's ready to go, and I am not going to be surprised when he goes in the top 10. I think just to get a cover corner that can do what he does, and he's in that age range that he's not too young and he's not too old. He's got experience. He's ready to go. I mean, look at his coverage grade, 90.7. That's what you want. You want a kid that can cover. So I really believe that he is going to go top 10.
I think so too. You know, and I think in the chat, you know, I missed this. There's a lot of people that loved your take on the Ohio State thing and because they were coached by Matt Patricia. Look, Matt Patricia was not a great head coach in the NFL, but he is one of the purest technicians and of a defense. I mean, the dude is super smart. He is not head coach material, right? His attitude is terrible. That is why he's more suited for college, because you can bully around and, you know, have your way with these college kids. It's not that way in the NFL. And he quickly realized right away that his method, his style of coaching in the NFL was not going to work. That's why he had to go back to college ball.
Well, and he's not running the show either. He's working
not
for someone else.
But you can't tell me that Matt Patricia did not utilize Styles and Reese in a perfect dynamic for that defense. I mean, that just because they didn't win it all doesn't mean that those players were not valuable. Doesn't mean that those players are not good players. Those players are some of the most technically sound players that you're ever going to see in the draft. And so I would highly disagree. And just because your bias is, as a former Lions head coach and from Ohio State, that's why I do this, and a lot of people don't, because I don't look at Saturdays when I judge Sundays or evaluate Sundays. You know?
Yeah. So, like, I'm not a big college football guy. I don't watch a lot of college football. You know, the one game I watch every year is Ohio State and Michigan. That's the one game I never miss it, right? But going back to Mansour Delane, I have him going number 7 overall to the Washington Commanders, and I think that he would be a great fit for that team in that defense with Quinn. I believe that he is going to go super high in this draft.
I think he'll be the first one off the board. You're going to see a major shakeup for me here in a little bit, a name that won't be popping up. Olave Veganioni. So, I said earlier that Proctor could be one of the first off the board. Rarely do you see a guard go off the board early, but again, if you're thinking about taking Maui Noah as a guard with potential tackle upside, I think Vega could be the first one off the board if teams are worried about the back. If you're needing a tackle and you've traded all the way up to get a tackle, then I still think that there is the Caden Proctor, or for some teams, it depends on their roster, right? And I think a lot of people forget this. Players aren't always drafted just because they're the best fit, for a certain team or, a certain profile. It's the roster build out too. If you have a very significant need and some teams draft for need. Some players jump other players. Scheme. You have to take scheme into account. Proctor may not be the first tackle off the board because maybe a team values Blake Miller and his ability in the zone, or they may take Monroe Freeling because they feel like he has a little bit more fluidity, or it just fits their style of scheme, their run game. Really, you tailor these guys to the run game, not the pass game. But Neone, I mean, this guy is one of the purest technicians that I've watched in a long time. He's got some deficiencies like everybody. He has a lot of things to work on like everybody, but 614 snaps last year, no hits, no sacks, and only 4 hurries with 1 penalty. That's leadership, intelligence, and being at the right place at the right time and using the right technique. I had him at number 14 in my previous top 25 ranking. He's flown up the board 5 spots here at number 9. The SIS big board has him at number 13. My biggest take on the guy is I think he's the most dependable interior blocker in this class, but the game already looks pro-ready, snap after snap. He's not a flashy projection built on upside alone. He is a physically mature, technically sound guard who can step into a lineup and help immediately. For me, the value starts with how stable he is in the pass protection and how much nastiness he brings in the run game. If a team wants a tone-setting, plug-and-play interior help, this is one of the safest answers on the board. Center versatility is also real in this case, and it adds a lot of appeal. I've mentioned a few times, if a team really wants a center that, they bring in as a guard and they groom at center, and within a couple of seasons he makes the switch, this is a guy to look out for. One of my first reasons, that's what this first, second, and third is. Like, these are the main reasons why or why not I would draft the guy. It's the elite interior floor, 0 sacks, 0 hits, and a 90 true pass block grade. Give him one of the cleanest pass pro resumes among interior blockers. Second, its scheme fit matters. He can function in zone, but his best football comes in tighter quarters where power, leverage, and hand strength drive the rep. Third, center flexibility adds the value. Guard is still the primary projection here, but his leverage, intelligence, and interior temperament give him a legitimate secondary pathway. Best team fits and picks, the Giants. That could be at 5. They could be at 10. Right guard is the one spot, of the clearest holes on their roster, and this would be a direct answer to a starting vacancy rather than a luxury pick. Baltimore at number 14. My goodness, if he slips back that far, something happened up front. But guard play has been a real need. And this is the kind of a pick that would give this offense a more physical interior presence immediately. And then 15, again, I can't imagine that he slides back this far, but those teams could move up, right? Left guard has been a clear spot to upgrade for the Bucs, and this would be about dropping a day one starter into a veteran offense, adding more edge to their run game. Draft range, round 1, most likely picks between 10 and 15. If teams push tackles and defensive premium positions early, but he still looks like one of the safest interior bets to come off the board in the middle of the first round. I think he could go in the top 10, like top 7 even. Maui Noah's the trump card here. If they don't have clean, medicals on the guy, then guys like Vega and Proctor and Freeling and Fano, they're all going to move up. Again, don't forget to join us live for the draft tonight. Fernando Mendoza at number 10, not even talk about the guy. What a waste. Okay, I'll say this. Look,
I was going to ask you a question.
Okay.
So earlier we were talking about the 2024 draft. You had Caleb Williams, you had Michael Penix, you had Bo Nix, you had JJ McCarthy. Okay, I want you to put Fernando Mendoza in a time machine, and we're going to go back to the 2024 draft, and you are going to slot him in with those guys. Where would you put him?
Hold the phone here. Hold on. 2024 draft.
Yep. So Caleb Williams was 1, and then you had Michael Penix.
So you had
JJ McCarthy.
No, you had Williams, Daniels, May.
Yeah. Oh, May was in
Williams,
there also.
Daniels, May. Penix, McCarthy, and Nix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably slot him as 1, 2, 3, 4. He probably would have been my fifth quarterback in that class. Now, I'm not going to take into account what we know about Penix now.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take into account what I know about JJ McCarthy or Bo Nix or any of that. I'm just thinking cleanly here. Where would I have probably put him? And I probably would have put him before JJ McCarthy, maybe. Yeah, and probably after Penix. So I think that's number 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'd have been my 5th quarterback.
Yeah, me too. That's where I was going to say I would have put him just above JJ McCarthy. And so that gives you an idea of how rough this quarterback class is. Because if you remember, I think it was the draft before that where Malik Willis went, he didn't go until the 3rd or 4th round. And that was just a horrible class as well. You had all those quarterbacks being pushed and pushed and pushed. And so this is kind of like that. It's one of those drafts where you're not going to see a bunch of quarterbacks in the first round.
Exactly. Number 11, Jordan Tyson. This guy has so much upside and so much concern. He's fun to watch, but the injury history is significant. And I did fly him up the board 11 spots.
Wow.
I normally wouldn't do that. But when you look at a ranking system that is based off of his technical ability, he deserves it. As far as an injury history concerned, that's more of the predictive model of where I think he's going to get drafted. But from a technical standpoint, he's the 11th best player in this draft. SIS has him at number 9. Quite simply, Tyson's tape says starter, plain and simple. He's one of the most refined route runners in this class. He wins with the kind of detail that translates quickly on Sundays. The swing factor is the medical file. Because the talent is easy to buy, if he stays healthy, you are getting a high-level wide receiver 2 immediately with enough polish and ball-winning ability to flash as a featured target in the right offense. Number 12. Look, this guy has kind of been stuck in this same area for me. And I could have backed him up a little bit if I was doing, again, predictive. But from a technical standpoint, Dylan Thieneman is the top 12 athlete in this class for me. So he slid down one spot. He was at 11 before. SIS Big Board has him at 18, which is kind of weird to me because they mock him to the Vikings. So my question would be, did you put him at 18 because he's the 18th best, or did you put him at 18th because that's more predictive? And I haven't asked Jeff about that yet, but I would assume that they're trying to stick with rankings and not predictive. First, look, this guy has elite coverage, 90.5 coverage grade, 66.2 passer rating allowed. I mean, just phenomenal numbers. Limitation is physical tone setting. He is reliable, but he is not a true box enforcer or a block destroyer. He gets kind of stuck, when he gets mixed up with, when he gets mixed up with tight ends, or he gets mixed up with an offensive lineman that's clearing out. He's not able to stack and shed as easily, and that I think is the physical part of his game is missing. So it kind of narrows where he belongs, right? And the third thing is, I think that if the league clearly values him, right? He's probably the number 1 safety after Caleb Downs, but especially for teams needing a deep safety. And this is all the film that I watched on him. I think he's super intelligent. I think he has great range, and you want a guy back there that is decisive. He's been very decisive. He doesn't lose track of the football. He typically makes the right read, and he doesn't make many mistakes. The only real concern, I really have to nitpick, to use Jeff's words. I really have to nitpick this guy to find a lot of things, or minor amount of things that are bad. I don't like him up near the line of scrimmage. I think he shies away from tackles. And after Jeff, I think, mentioned something to that point, I went and watched another hour's worth of film, and I noticed it. So before, I didn't notice it because someone else was making the tackle, and he was there, but he had the opportunity to make the tackle, and he didn't. So that's a little concerning to me. But if you have him back there as a free roaming safety, a lot of that stuff kind of disappears. Best fits. Obviously the Vikings, clearly the Carolina Panthers. Both of these teams, and have a safety need. Harrison Smith has not given his notice to the Vikings of what he's going to do. I don't think it really matters. For Carolina, they've openly previewed safety as a real need, and Thieneman's range and discipline fit a defense that could benefit from, more of a steady back end. And then there's the Cowboys. Look, the appeal is really obvious. If the Cowboys don't want to move and they want to add a premier player at 12, he's going to be there, more than likely. Smart, rangy, versatile enough to play from deep while also helping stabilize the defense going through structural change, because there's real change going on in the Cowboys organization. Draft range, round 1, most likely picks 17 to 20. You're probably wondering why I said 17. Team to watch. Should Caden Proctor or Monroe Freeling go early, mixed with Thieneman landing at 17 to Detroit, gets an upgrade that will stabilize the secondary. The Lions must secure the back end of the secondary, with Branch likely missing large amounts of time into week 8, and the unknown with Kirby Joseph. I know you got to run, so why don't you give us your final breakdown of the day before the draft?
All right. So before the draft, man, what an unknown, what an exciting time to live in. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be back this evening, and I'm going to go through my mock draft. And I also put together a list of the entire first round, all predicted by DraftKings. So I took whoever was the highest predicted player to go to each team by DraftKings by their odds. And if the player was gone that was predicted to be the top, I took the next player down according to odds. So it worked out. And there's a few players that slid into the first round that I wasn't even thinking of that might make the first round. So tune in tonight. You'll find out who they are, and we're going to have some fun with it. I can't wait. I'll see you guys probably 6, 7 o'clock. I'll be back.
All right, man. Have a good day. Good luck today.
Yeah.
All right. Now we got one. Up next, 13. This is where we get the third offensive lineman in this class, and that's Spencer Fano. Now, like I said earlier, I've been a little, I don't want to say over analyzing, but Fano has 3 years of playing in college, but really 2 years at left tackle. And I still view him as one of the more polished guys. And when you look at who he's gone up against, that's where the concern comes in for me. I still feel like when you're looking for a top tier tackle, you want the guys that have played the most snaps and gone up against the best of the best of the best. And Fano has not been able to do that, not until later in the seasons. So he allowed 0 sacks, 0 hits, which is solid, right? Only 5 hurries, but 5 penalties is concerning. 822 snaps last year. The one thing I love about his game is he is truly a scheme versatile player. Gap grades, zone grades are almost mirror image of each other, and I think that whatever team he lands on, it doesn't even matter. I think he's going to fit any team that's looking for a high upside left tackle. So his draft stock, he flew up 5 spots for me. Previously, he was at 18. The SIS big board has him at 12. At 311 pounds, I think he's a little bit light, but he has elite movement skills, clean footwork, and one of the stronger pass protection profiles in the class. He is, again, one of the cleaner projections, the best in the class, because of the hardest part of tackle play already looks natural to him. He protects space, he stays under control, and he gives an offensive line coach real flexibility because he has worked both sides and wins with technique instead of panic. He is not the heaviest tackle in the group, and that is where the projection gets tested. But the pass protection floor is strong enough that he can help early while the body keeps developing. This, again, is why, like Sports Info Solutions, when they do their grades and their rankings, it's, where is this player day 1, year 2? And I started to adopt that into my profile now after listening to that and understanding a little bit more of what NFL teams are looking at. It's not necessarily who the player is right now today, but who is this player going to be after a year of being on, in our facility? and that makes a ton of sense. One of the first reasons why I would select this guy is the elite pass protection floor. Like 0 sacks, 0 hits, allowed over 822 snaps. That's real production, not projection. Second, the anchor and the length are the swing factors. The lighter frame and the shorter tackle margin are the clearest reasons some teams may prefer other linemen first. So the second is more of a negative. Third reason why teams may or may not look to draft him is the versatility adds value. So this would be an obvious reason as to why teams are looking to Fano early in this draft. Left tackle experience, right tackle experience, and movement ability give him multiple pathways to becoming a long-term starter. Best fits, you could see the Cleveland Browns take him at 6. Makes a lot of sense because the offensive line still needs a long-term answer, and the roster has enough age, injury, and wear and instability up front to justify using a premium pick on tackle help. Fano fits naturally in the range because the Browns need a starter, not a stash project. The New York Giants at 5. The Giants fit because tackle remains one of the most important long-term decisions on the roster, and this range is exactly where solving that problem makes sense for the Giants. This would be about stabilizing the line with a player who can stay outside and grow into a featured role rather than patching the spot again later. And then Baltimore Ravens. I keep putting them in for a lot of players, especially at offensive line. Baltimore makes sense because tackle is it's a clean long-term need that they're looking for. Be interested to hear what Derek Coleman had to say, but this slot lines up naturally for a starting caliber lineman. If the top of the board breaks elsewhere, this would be about maintaining stability up front before the need becomes urgent. Draft range, round 1, most likely picks 3 to 14. It's a wide range here. I could see him go as early as 3 to the Cardinals and as late as 14 to the Ravens, but I don't think it's going to be anything after that. Caden Proctor at 14. Caden Proctor, look, we've talked about this guy till I'm blue in the face. I originally had him at 17. I pushed him up 3 spots to number 14. I think he overtook Kenyon Sadiq in this case. SIS board has him at number 11. A lot to love about Caden Proctor. He's one of the purest traits bets in this class, but this is not blind projection because the tape already shows starting caliber NFL moments. The size, movement, and raw power are all there. And when the set pace and hand timing line up, defenders have almost no answers. For me, the evaluation comes down to whether a staff believes it can clean up the early set urgency enough to keep him at tackle full time. If it can, this is a long-term cornerstone. If it cannot, he still has the makeup of a high-level guard with Pro Bowl upside. It's kind of funny that I've written all of these profiles, months ago, right? And, last night brushed up a couple of them, and I've had Caden Proctor going inside to guard for a long time. It makes a ton of sense. And then even after the combine and speaking to Proctor about it, it made even more sense. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just glad that the work is finally lining up with what other people are saying too. One of the first reasons why or why not that you would draft Proctor, well, it's the rare tackle profile. 6'6" and 5'8" and 352 pounds with legitimate movement skills gives him one of the highest physical ceilings in the class. Second, you have the speed stress that is the issue. And wide 9 rushers and early hand timing lapses have created the most vulnerable reps on his tape. And there's very few early in his career at Alabama in his freshman season. He had more issues, and that was because he was a little bit heavier and he was 18 years old, right? 19 years old, extremely young. If you're expecting, an 18 or a 19-year-old to be able to go in and do things perfectly, then I think we're watching two separate games here, because you tell me where you were at 18 or 19. And then third, the floor matters. Even if tackle consistency never fully arrives, which I think it will, his power, his pad level, and lower half give him a strong interior fallback. The one thing that I really love about Proctor, and so this is where the pass set and where I'm talking about the speed stress, where it's an issue, and also where I mentioned earlier that, where did I put it? His set pacing and his hand timing. if he doesn't set properly, then you see him reach a little bit, but this is where he has such a wide frame, wide wingspan, and big hands that he's still able to get his hands on a defender without causing a penalty. And so by doing that, I mean, all he has to do is, push you from the side or punch the chest, and that's enough to hold back a defender. Why? Because he is 352. Why? Because when he does anchor, it's like you just drilled 6 feet into the dirt and he's going nowhere. If he does let a defender into his chest, which he does often, it's because once he's in, or once you're in, you're not getting out. It's like a Venus flytrap, man. He lets you get in and real close, and then everything closes up. He latches in, and you're stuck. So I know that it's viewed as a negative when you let defenders get into your chest, but I think that Proctor uses it at times as a way to trap a defender because he is so big and he is so powerful and his grip strength is insane. Players just struggle when they go up against Proctor. Best team fits. Look, I think it's a real possibility Proctor's off the board at 5. And I'm being dead serious here. It makes a ton of sense again. I've gone over it many times. I'm not going to go over it again. Cleveland makes a ton of sense. I'm not going to go over it again. Detroit Lions. Look, one of the strongest natural fits because of the tackle succession planning is very much in play. And current Lions-specific mock coverage has repeatedly tied Proctor to this pick. This would be about protecting the future of the line before... this would be about protecting the future of the line before the need becomes urgent and keeping a strength of the roster from slipping. Anyway, for what it's worth, I predicted Caden Proctor to the Lions back in December of 2025. Draft day range, round 1, most likely between picks 5 and 17. The top 6 range makes sense on talent, but Detroit at 17 looks like one of the clearest natural landing spots if he gets past that first wave. Again, there are a ton of rumors. A ton of rumors, but hold on here. I'm trying to look at some information that's coming in that's probably fake. There's a ton of rumors, flying about what's going to happen with the Lions at 17. The Bears, I've heard, want to jump them, but just about anybody between 18 and 25 apparently want to get ahead of the Lions. That's a lot of teams, which means the best price is going to win. Whoever offers the most to move up is going to win. And the Lions don't have a 3rd round pick, which means they're going to have to give up some future draft capital to even get the player that they want in the 1st round. So then what happens? Is Brad willing to go all in like he said he would, and he has done? He's made multiple picks, multiple trades with multiple picks to make sure that they get the players that they want, or the players that they're, the players that they feel are the best players for this team. So that has me concerned because we're limited right now, right? We have pick 50, then pick 118. Those are 2 huge draft voids. Picking that far apart and missing out on an entire round in a draft that just doesn't have a lot of talent, solid talent to help you day one. This draft is not going to be a good draft unless Brad Holmes does some crazy moves. And I'm expecting it. I'll just say that. I'm expecting it. Number 15, Kenyon Sadiq. I'm moving him back just 1 spot. This kid is simply just amazing. I can't wait to see what he does. I just hope it's not on a Sunday against the Lions. Sadiq is the most explosive tight end in the class, and the speed changes how defenses can now align against him. You're drafting a mismatch weapon first, not a traditional inline Y weapon or inline Y tight end. If the hands stabilize, he becomes a nightmare down the seam and a true offensive stress point. I see an immediate sub-package contributor with the upside to grow into a featured receiving tight end in a modern offense. He's going to be on the field every down, without a doubt. But what I could see him do is go out wide and run some of the X routes more often. But having him inside at in tight splits, if you look at what the Rams do, and if you go back and look what the Cardinals done with Trey McBride, Sadiq is going to be able to do that same exact thing with a lot more speed and velocity. He's just he's Calvin Johnson inside a tight end's body. Then there's Ruben Bain. So a name that you guys are probably wondering, what happened to Bain? Look, I love his athletic profile, as far as what he's been able to do while at the University of Miami. I think that he's intense. I think that he's ferocious. I think he's great, at times against the run game. Hold on, where's that stat? Why don't I see it? There it is. The 18.8% missed tackle rate is one of the biggest glaring issues for me with Ruben Bain. And I think a lot of that stems from the short arms. At the NFL, it's going to be a lot harder to wrap up guys that are bigger, stronger, faster, with a wider plant, and being able to wrap up guys, you need longer arms. He's got sub 31-inch arms. When you're attacking a guy, from the outside as an edge defender, you have to use length, power, strength, stability, and pass rush moves to get by that tackle in a blink of a second. And if any one of those fails for a guy that has sub 31-inch arms, the entire rep will fail. And so if you can't beat somebody with speed and they're able to get their hands to you first, he's done. And that's what shows up in his film. Now, the times that he is able to win with speed, I think you really need to go back and look at the competition that he went up against. Now, he played, in some extremely good games and had an extremely massive impact. I mean, 15 and a half TFLs is not easy. 9.5 sacks is not easy. 67 pressures is not easy. But sometimes not everything lives within the stats. I see him get hung up with the bigger, longer tackles. And so where I would deploy him would be more on the interior. I think that he would be an absolute weapon if he is engaged on the interior, running through the splits of the offense, or the gaps of the offensive line when they're running stunts and twists. That's where I would put him. I mean, he's almost like another player that you have to kind of put out there as like a free roamer, just someone to just go get after the quarterback, see ball, get ball. But in the run game, look, he identifies what's happening pre-snap. Probably one of the better guys in the draft. I'll give you my quick take. Bain is a high risk, high reward projection, and the arm length is as real as it changes the evaluation. But the tape doesn't lie. This kid can rush, but for me, the key is deployment. Keep him outside full time, and you're fighting an uphill battle. Move him around and let him attack the guards, and he becomes a problem. I see a day one impact rusher with inside out versatility and real disruptive upside in the right system. He needs the right system, the right coach, and the right option to be able to do what he can do to affect the play. But I think there's a lot to him. I'm just not sure where it's gonna end up. At 17, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Really like this dude. What a clean profile. Fun to watch on film. 6'3.5". They don't make safeties like this on trees. 201 pounds. You could say he's a little bit thin, but I see a lot of muscle on his frame. 32 and an 1/8 arms. He's got really long arms for a DB. And 5 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, 5.5 TFLs, 1 sack. I mean, they tell a story. The 33.3% forced incompletion rate tells a bigger story. But so does the 15.5% missed tackle rate. It's way too high. But when he's targeted, he's only given up a 50.3 passer rating. So there's good and bad with all these players. Like we've been saying, every single one of these players has deficiencies. It's just which ones are going to show up more. My biggest concern right here is the control, consistency, and finish discipline. McNeil-Warren's 15.5% missed tackle rate reflects a player who can overrun angles, he hunt kill shots, and then lose efficiency in space instead of arriving balanced and under control. I think that he tries to be too twitchy too much, right? And even though he's not a true twitch guy, I think he's trying to do things too fast. He just needs to slow down the pace a little bit, put himself in a position to win, and then finish. And I think when all of those things come together for him, he's going to be one of the best strong safeties in the game. McNeil Warren has that kind of size, speed, violence, defensive coaches chase because it gives them multiple ways to use him on the field early. And that's one of his biggest traits is versatility. For me, I think that this is a traits and disruption bet and a legitimate starter upside, but the projection only cashes in if the tackling becomes more disciplined and the aggression that I was just talking about gets harnessed. You want him aggressive, right? You want him to run through the face of the offensive player, but you have to be in position first. I've said this many times. You could be the smartest football player on the field and run a 4.6, or you could be not the smartest football player on the field and run a 4.35. The one that understands what's happening in the snap, like post-snap, pre-snap, and knows where the play is going, understands the route concept, and has a good feel for where that player is going to be on that play, that is the player that's running the 4.6, that's super intelligent, that is going to go make the play. Enter the room, Brian Branch. He's not the fastest player in the world, but he understands what's happening pre-snap and post-snap. He's able to process and diagnose with the best of them. Unfortunately, some of the guys that are super fast that may not be the smartest with football intelligence, they're going to run right through the play and they're going to be out of the play instantly because they didn't process and diagnose. They try to use their speed to make up for the deficiency. And then the next thing you know, they're standing on the sideline while the ball's going down to the end zone. So I'd rather have the guy that is smarter. I don't care about the speed as much. And there was a lot that was said about Emmanuel McNeil Warren running a 4.52. I think it was a 4.52 or 4.53, somewhere in that range. Look, I'm not overly or I'm not under impressed by that. I think that speed is definitely fine. Where he makes up the difference is in the processing. First, he has high-end playmaking profile, a 91.8 coverage efficiency, 33.3% forced incompletion rate, and tape full of ball production. Second, he has range and burst, and they are real. He can range off the hash, he can drive downhill on throws, and finish at the sideline with the kind of closing ability that changes passing windows. I'm not saying he's got like super click to close, but I am saying that he has real burst because of his processing to get there and make the play. Third, the volatility that shows up. So one of the things that I would maybe worry about, or I do worry about, is the missed tackle rate. He gets over aggressive on his angles and his pursuit angles, and uneven spacing that can be big obstacles while you're young. But I think that he's going to get it figured out at the next level, especially in the right system. Big fits for me, Minnesota. Look, we know they want a safety. If Dylan Thieneman is gone, I think that Emmanuel McNeil Warren is probably the next best fit there. Carolina Panthers, for the same reason I said earlier, safety is a big need for them. At safety behind Trayvon Mulrig, with Nick Scott back only on a 1-year deal, this position still being openly examined as a draft need. I think that this would be a value and roster fit pick rather than a luxury swing. And then San Francisco, but 27, they're going to have to trade up. San Francisco makes a lot of sense because the safety spot remains unsettled with Jair Brown struggling and Malik Mustafa returning from a prior ACL injury. I think the 49ers want to stabilize the back end without forcing a corner or edge pick here. This is a clean match in their range. And then round one, most likely picks, I'd say between 18 and 29, with the strongest natural cluster in the late teens to early 20s. Do not discount the Lions here. You know that I've selected Emmanuel McNeil Warren multiple times to the Lions, and that is a real opportunity for the Lions if they happen to miss out on an offensive lineman that they really like. Those are my two spots for the Lions in round one. If the Lions move up, I'd say they're probably going after an offensive lineman. If they trade back even a couple of spots, they're probably going after Emmanuel McNeil Warren. But we'll uncover that here at 3 p.m. Lions lens. So this is your first Lions lens of the day. Detroit makes real sense here. Even if safety is not the flashiest need on paper, The Lions' own draft coverage has already acknowledged that the position becomes a serious issue depending on how Kirby Joseph's knee responds after costing him the final 11 games of the season, and how quickly Brian Branch returns from the Achilles tear that he suffered in December. Detroit has numbers in the room, but not certainty, and that is the difference for me. Chuck Clark gives them professionalism and steadiness, but he is not Branch or Joseph at full strength. And a win-now defense cannot just assume health solves everything here. If Brad Holmes wants to protect the secondary from becoming a weak link again this year, McNeil Warren is exactly the kind of versatility versatile safety who would make sense at Detroit for 17. All right, 18, Denzel Boston. I think he has real opportunity to go a lot earlier than what a lot of mock drafts or other analysts have said. I think that a lot of teams love his length and his height and everything about his catchability. He's a fun receiver to watch. 76.9% contested catch rate is insanity to me. 3.1% drop rate is exceptional, and his 112.3 passer rating when targeted makes him a quarterback-friendly option. Previously had him at number 19. He's moved up one spot to 18. My take on this guy, he's a classic boundary receiver who wins with size, control, and toughness. He's not going to separate with speed, but he doesn't need to. He wins at the catch point and on critical downs. This is the high floor X who gives quarterbacks trust in tight windows. I see a day one contributor with long-term wide receiver 2 value, especially in offenses that lean on physicality and timing. Up next at 19, Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana. Previously had him one of the biggest movers on my board at 49. He now jumps up 30 spots to number 19. I had him staying outside of the top 25 for the longest. And it was just recently when I watched the more film on Omar, and then based on what's going on in this draft, I figured he is one of the more cleaner options in this draft for receivers. There's a lot more to his game that has not been uncovered. He is still raw, and he only has one real season of major production. But when you look at 145.2 passer rating when targeted, I mean, that's almost a perfect passer rating. Very minimal 4.2% drop rate, and then a 73.8 grade versus man. There's not a lot this guy can't do. 13 TDs and 3 drops last year. Very productive. Very, very productive. Now, SIS has him at 38. I mean, that's more closer to where I had him. But I feel like there's going to be a team that is going to love what he does on Sunday and select him early for some of these teams that need a wide receiver. You could see him end up in LA, quite honestly. I think the Rams are looking at a receiver for sure. And then there's Mekhi Lemon. So I did drop Mekhi Lemon quite a bit. He was previously at number 10. I dropped him 10 spots to number 20. And I'm just not as consistent with where I see Mekhi Lemon at the next level. Little worried about the mental side of his game. A lot worried, actually. Lemon is one of the most quarterback-friendly receivers in the class. His tape demands touches. He's not built to win on traits, but he consistently wins on execution and feel. This is a plug-and-play slot guy who elevates third down efficiency and keeps offenses on schedule. I see a high-floor starter with immediate impact and long-term value as a volume-driven target in the right system. But the biggest question is, Will, you have 3 receivers in a row. And I probably could have put all 3 of these guys up a little bit further. I view Denzel Boston as one of the best receivers in this class. I'm different. That's okay. I view Omar Cooper Jr. with more experience as one of the best receivers in this class. Mekhi Lemon, we've kind of already seen a lot of what he can do. My question is, how much more can he do? Right? How much more can he do? And I do take the mental side of the game pretty serious, right? And what we saw at the Combine was kind of weird. I'm not going to say that has any real evaluation, or I didn't take any of that into consideration during the evaluation, but you kind of do. when you look at what Mekhi Lemon has done, 2023, he had 5 games, and then he had 2 seasons, back-to-back, 12 games apiece at USC. 262 snaps and 401 snaps. That was in the pass. I'm sorry. We've got pass, slot, and wide. So it doesn't give me an overall. 262, 4. So we call it 524. We'll call it 725. That's the extent of his career. Omar Cooper Jr., 3 years with Indiana. I'm not sure if he was there all 3 years. Now I can't remember, but he had roughly the same. He had about 524 and about 725. So about the same experience. The difference for me is you're looking at a guy that can do just about anything on the field. And Fernando Mendoza, who knows? Maybe he ends up in Vegas. Wouldn't that be tricky? And then the other guy, Denzel Boston. 3 years worth of production again, or the last 3 years. 23 was light. 24, he had over 900 reps. And in 25, he had over 800 reps. So he has a little bit more time on the field. Maybe the competition factor is a little bit different for the Huskies. But that contested catch rate, I've never seen anything that high before. And when you watch him on film, like there's nobody that is able to body this guy out. Yeah, he's a little bit slower. But you show me on film where he gets beat. And I'll show you on film where he beats a lot of guys more often. I really like all 3 of these guys. Mekhi Lemon to a little bit lesser degree. But I think the Boston could be one of the best receivers in this class when we're all said and done. Number 21, Akeem Messidor. We spoke a lot about him this morning. I'm not going to go too deep into him, but at number 21, he moved up 4 spots from 25. The SIS board has him at 16. The one major deficiency is the arm length, but when you watch the tape, University of Miami's tape, one thing that I kept noticing is that whenever Bain was in on a play, Messidor was already there, and vice versa. When Bain was in on a play, or when Messidor was in on a play, and he missed or he pushed it to the other side, Bain was able to clean it up. I think both of those players played off of each other, but I feel like Messidor's impact meant more for Bain and not the other way around. Does that make sense? Like, Bain didn't impact the play as much as I felt that Messidor did. I think Messidor is undervalued. I think a lot of analysts are giving Bain too much of the credit. But elite production, you're getting a guy that is going to come in day one, a little bit older, a little bit wiser, 12 and a half sacks, 17 and a half tackles for loss last season. That's elite production. If it translates to the NFL, this guy's going to be a double-digit sack guy every year. Age does matter. He's going to be 25 as a rookie, so it shortens his developmental runway. But it changes how some teams will view him. But I think it also says, hey, I'm ready to go now, right? I'm ready to go now. The medicals are a swing factor. Look, the foot injuries or the foot history, it's one of the clearest reasons a player with this level of polish could get pushed down some boards. I've seen him go as high as 11 and as far back as 29. So I think he's kind of all over the place. The Cardinals at 3, probably not the most sense, but they do need a pass rusher. And when I say at number 3, I'm thinking the Cardinals trade back in this scenario, potentially to number 12. And if they do trade back with the Cowboys, then I think that's where Messidor's opportunity starts. Number 17 with the Lions. Look, I think he fits the Lions because he is older, he is wiser, and he can come in and play day one. I wouldn't necessarily feel like the Lions are going to take him, over. Take him over. I shouldn't say Zadarius Smith. I should say Al-Qadim Muhammad. God, I can't even write things the right way. I don't think they're going to take Messidor over a premium tackle position or a tackle prospect in this class. But if all of the other prospects are gone and Messidor staring you in the face, what do? You know, do you move back and still try to take him, or do you just stick the pick? Then there's San Francisco at 27. If he goes all the way back to 27, again, I'm not as surprised because I've seen it go to 29. But San Francisco makes a lot of sense. Edge keeps surfacing is a live need for them as well. Draft range, round 1, 17 to 27 is where I'm going to put him right now. With Detroit at 17, feeling like one of the cleanest natural landing spots if he lasts into the second half of the round. Again, there's where I put Al-Qadim Muhammad. For the Lions, I think it makes a lot of sense here because the edge room is still unfinished. The Lions found patchwork answers last season, but they did not bring back Al-Qadim Muhammad, and current team analysis still points to a need for another true difference maker opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Messidor fits that lens because he is older, polished, and ready to help immediately rather than needing 2 years of development. For a team trying to win now, that matters. This would not be about chasing traits alone. It would be about adding a pass rusher who can step into the rotation early and give the front more finishing ability right away. And then Colton Hood. Where's Jamad McCoy? Right? Colton Hood, second corner in this class, lands at number 22. Previous rank, I had him at 44. So he is flying up the board. That's more than 14 spots, by the way, Will. Can you do your math? It's 22 spots. SIS has him at 15. I'm not surprised. I think that Colton Hood is one of the better corners in this class. Seriously. I mean, I think he's an extremely good prospect. Hood is the kind of a corner that defensive coaches talk themselves into because the first and last phases of the rep look NFL ready. He may never be the smoothest transition athlete in the class, but he brings length, speed, and physical temperament to survive outside in press-oriented systems. For me, the key is whether a team can coach the instincts and run game consistency hard enough to let the other tools kind of take over. For the Lions, again, I see a fit here. Detroit makes real sense if the Lions want to keep adding competition and long-term stability at corner. Their own draft preview, again, already has pointed to question marks behind DJ Reed with uncertainty around how much Ennis Rakestraw Jr. gives them and how settled the room really is beyond top names. Terrion Arnold is a huge question mark, and not just for his play, but for his legal mess. Hood would fit the kind of outside profile that Detroit could still use more of, especially if the staff wants another physical boundary corner who can challenge for snaps early and protect against the position becoming thinner and thinner as it looks on paper. Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at Hood either, man. I'm glad a lot of you agree in there. Like I said, previous ranking was 44. I moved him way up. I dug into a little bit more film on him. And especially after the whole Jamad McCoy thing, there's a lot of unanswered questions there for me. TJ Parker at 23. He was not in last night. He's in today. I just ranked him 35 in the top 50. He's now jumped up 12 spots to be number 23 in the top 36. He has the requisite everything: height, weight, hands, arms, wing, 8, speed, 9.5 TFLs, 11 hits, and 5 sacks last year for the Clemson Tigers. I think that he's a damn good edge. He's a great edge setter. He still has some things about his game that need to be worked out, but 22 stops, 24 hurries, a 15.5 pass rush win rate, and a 7.6% run stop win rate. Sounds like Detroit Lion to me. But even if it's not, Parker is the kind of edge prospect that teams trust because the floor is built on traits that already translate: length, strength, leverage, and a hot motor. Disruption profile, like I said, 41 pressures, 24 hurries, 15.5% win rate. The rush ceiling is in question, though. He wins more with power and polish than rare bend or elite twitch, which could kind of cap the outside. Or cap his upside, excuse me. Third, the run defense floor helps. So he can set an edge, tackle, and stay useful even when the pure rush does not fully take over. Let me say that again. He can set an edge, tackle, and stay useful even when the pure rush does not fully take over. Best team fits, Atlanta Falcons at 13, Lions at 17, and Los Angeles Chargers at 22. I do feel that TJ Parker gets his name called in the first round. And the Lions, again, to a lesser extent, only if they don't find a replacement on the offensive line early. Number 24, Monroe Freeling. Again, we talked about him earlier this morning. I'm not going to go deep into this, but I think that when you look at the best team fits, Cleveland Browns at number 6. Cleveland makes sense because tackle remains one of the clearest long-term pressure points on the roster, and there has been meaningful late-cycle draft buzz connecting Freeling to the Browns at this slot. This would be about locking in a premium position rather than patching it again later. Lions at 17. Whoops, got to add a... Well, there we go. Lions at 17 makes a lot of sense here because offensive tackle has become one of the cleanest round one needs on the roster. This would be about a succession planning and keeping the offensive line from slipping as an organizational strength. And then the Steelers. I don't know why that says 20. It should be 21, right? Steelers are at 21. Glad I'm going through this again. Like, this is so much to do. It's hard to get everything right. I don't have an editor. Yeah, they're at 21. Steelers at 21. Pittsburgh fits because the current draft discussion still frames offensive line as a major team priority, and this range lines up with where a pass first tackle with starter upside naturally comes off the board. Draft range, round 1. Most likely between 17 and 23. Though a team prioritizing left tackle traits could push him higher. Detroit at 17 is one of the clearest natural landing spots right now. And we're going to add this. If Proctor is already gone. Keldrick Fault at 25. I know a lot of people have removed him from first round consideration for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's hard to find a pure edge setter, and he's a pure edge setter. The pass rush upside is there. I don't care about only having 2 sacks. I think the one thing that we need to pay attention to is why did he have 2 his freshman year and 9 in his second year, and then 2 in his last year? He went from 2 to 9 to 2. So what happened between 23 and 25? That's the question that needs to get answered. And I honestly don't know the answer. I can't spend, an arduous amount of time on all of these guys. I already do. But my questions would be this. Was there a scheme change? Was there a coaching change? Was there a defensive coordinator change? What changed? Because something changed. You don't go from 9 sacks to 2. Typically, something changed, and if it was the player, like was the player injured, then okay, that's change. But I feel like something changed here with scheme or technique, something that he was asked to do maybe differently last year than he was doing differently the year before. Whatever it is, I don't have the answer to it, but I will tell you what I watch on film tells me that his potential is sky high, and when you want to run stuffer, this is the guy you take. 26, Lee Hunter. So we start to get the first interior defensive lineman off the board here, potentially. 318 pounds, 33 and a quarter inch arms, extremely long ape score, and 6'3 and a half. That is a perfect requisite height for me. I like my interior of defensive lineman between 6'3 and a half and 6'4 and a half. As far as height, I just feel like the launch angle, the pad height, everything is better between 6'3 and a half and 6'4 and a half. It's just based on what I've witnessed. When you get a lot taller defensive tackles, it seems you have more pad height problems. And when they're a lot shorter, 6 foot, 5'10", 6'1", they just don't have the length to compete. It's very, very few and far between guys like Aaron Donald have success. My previous ranking was 25, so he moves back one spot to 26. SIS has him at 24. Very simply, look, he's the kind of interior defender every front needs because he changes the texture of the run game immediately. He's not just a block eater. He is a disruptive run plugger who can reset the line and make life easier on the second level. If the conditioning and pad level improve, he has the tools to become more than a two-down player. At a minimum, this is a sturdy early down starter with real value as a pocket compressor. So I don't really see him on third down a whole lot or in passing downs. Caden McDonald at 27. So we get our second interior defensive lineman. Look, this guy gets into the backfield. The 9 TFLs evidenced. He gets his hands up. The 3 pass breakups at the line of scrimmage is evidence. And he finds the ball and he punches it out. The 2 forced fumbles, evidence. McDonald is one of the safest run defenders in this class, but the core trait that matters most for a nose tackle already translates to the NFL. He's not a finished product by any means, and anyone selling him that way is getting ahead of the tape. But if a defense wants a tone-setting 0 or 1 tech who can eat doubles, reset the interior, and make life easier on the second level, keeping those linebackers clean, this is the kind of player worth betting on. Look, these guys are interchangeable, Hunter and McDonald. It's kind of pick your poison. To a lesser degree, I don't think that Woods is that polished of an interior defensive tackle right now. That's why he's not even sniffing the first round for me. Avion Terrell at 28, a player that has been mocked to the Lions, just like Diego Pons. And you know, the one thing I didn't play there with Nick Saban earlier is he was talking about height, and I probably should have continued with it, but he was saying how players that are smaller, like Diego Pons, they're going to struggle at the next level. And I think that, you know, he was spot on. I'm glad, again, Saban backs up some of the things that I think are valuable for players, especially at a young age when you're drafting them, is don't settle for guys that, you know, that are low, you know, on the measurement stick. Like, either you get one that's the right height or you don't get one at all. And I think that's critical. But Avion Terrell, he's almost there at 5'10 and 3/4 inch. He's not quite there for me, but he's close enough, and his arm length is good enough to where he does, and his ape index is actually really good at 107. He does compete at the catch point, and that's big, right? My take on his size for me keeps me from projecting him as a true every down boundary answer against bigger NFL receivers, but the movement skills and the coverage instincts are just too good to ignore. The cleanest path is the inside, where his speed, click and close ability, and route recognition can take over. If he adds strength and stays healthy, he has immediate starter potential in a nickel or a star role. Then CJ Allen. He was not in before. He is in now. CJ Allen went from... Oh, no, maybe he was in. Maybe I did have him at 29 in the most recent one. But the first one, I know I didn't. I think I had him somewhere near the 48 range or something like that. But anyway, red flags, well below average coverage grades. This is a middle linebacker. This is not a guy that, if you're thinking the Lions are going to bring him in, that is going to play the will role, I don't think it's going to happen. Unless they were able to bring him in for a private workout and were able to, you know, figure out that, hey, this guy can cover, which pretty tough to do when you don't have, you know, 22 guys on the field. I think he's a Mike linebacker, and I think he's going to be a hell of a Mike linebacker, and I think that a team that gets him is going to have a hell of a Mike linebacker. Allen is the kind of linebacker defensive coaches trust because the game already makes sense to him. You see that. He's comfortable. He doesn't panic. He's not a traits first projection guy, but he is going to win with rare space athleticism. But he plays fast because he sees it early. He's a high processor, and he arrives with purpose and intent to erase you. That gives him real starter value in the middle of a defense. If the coverage technique sharpens, he has 3-down staying power. If it does not, he still projects as a high floor, early down leader who raises the run defense standard immediately. Number 29, CJ Allen. Number 30, R. Mason Thomas, this is the one that I was trying to say was not in before, but he is in now. R. Mason Thomas has kind of won me over the last week or so. I'm not impressed by his arm length at all, but I do like his ability, and I think he's a pretty fun player to watch. The tape tells a lot, but what I'll tell you about him is that he's the kind of edge prospect defensive coaches want in the room because of the speed, the urgency, and the disruption that will translate to the next level. He may never be built to live as a heavy every down end against NFL size, but that is not where his best value comes from, in my opinion anyway. This is a stand-up rusher with real juice, real effort, and enough movement skill to create havoc in the right structure. If a team keeps him in space, lets him rush, and does not overload him with jobs that fight his frame, he has the makeup of a highly productive NFL edge weapon. And I use the term weapon for a reason. I don't think he's a 3-down player. What I think he is more of a pass rush specialist that can grow into a 3-down player. I don't see where. Let me look something up real quick now that I'm thinking of it. He had an extremely high pass rush win rate. Where is that on my list? Did I not even put it in there? Oh, no, I did. 20.3%. That's extremely high, right? 19 stops, 19 hurries, 9.5 TFLs, 6.5 sacks, all great production. But the issue that I have is the length. And he's always outside the tackle in his alignment, like 100% outside the tackle. And the reason why they do that is because he doesn't have the requisite length in the arms to be able to compete and fight and use hand technique with the tackles. And I just, for the Lions, I don't see it happening simply because they didn't do it with James Houston. Why are they going to do it now? Right? And he's too big. Well, maybe he's not, but he could be too big to slide back to linebacker. His coverage is, it's not terrible, but the question is, can you drop him back in coverage? If he slides to the flats, that's one thing. But sliding back and running deeper coverage, that's a totally different game. I don't really see him as a linebacker ever anyway. But I think it's going to take a very unique scheme to utilize the best of his ability. Max Ahanachor, he was outside the first round for me. He is now in. He was previously number 38. Last week I had him at 34, and now he's up to 31. This guy is a true wild card. Like, what you're going to get out of him, you don't know yet, but you know it's going to be fun. Drafted Ahanachor requires real patience. It's going to be a multi-year project, but the traits are too big to ignore. This is a day 2 bet on size, movement, and long-term tackle upside with early value potentially coming at guard while the technique catches up. First, his elite pass protection production, the 0 sacks allowed over 860 snaps, incredible. Second, he has very rare tackle foundation, meaning frame, length, foot quickness. It gives him the kind of biomechanical profile that offensive line coaches covet the most. And then you have a developmental ceiling. So one negative on him here is that while only 4 years of organized football under his belt, his rise from JUCO to high-level pass protector points to a prospect whose best football is obviously still ahead for him. Like I said, he's a day 2 pick that is going to slide into day 1. There's old Jermod McCoy. Now, I had to put him in the first round as far as a ranking. At 32, it's not so much that he's not a great corner. I just don't know what kind of corner he is because I haven't seen him play since 2024. And so for that reason, I can't rank him ahead of anybody else. If you base him off of 2024, he's the number 1 corner. If you base him off of what he's done and showed this year, which isn't much, he's not a number 1 corner. And when I'm ranking players on players that I would take in the first round, I put him at the very end of the first round because I believe that his traits are there. I believe that mentally he's an extremely good corner. Physically, he's an extremely good corner. But where's the injury concern? right? Where does it still lie? And is it mental? Because you heard Nick Saban talk about it this morning, that sometimes the mental part of the game just doesn't show up. And if you are concerned about your injury, well, you may never show up. And so I have a big risk. I'm risk adverse to Jermod McCoy, and that is why I put him at 32, because it's a risky pick. It's boom or bust. And I don't think that there's really an in-between. I'm not as concerned about re-injury as I am who the player is. SIS has him at 29, so we're pretty close. I had him previously ranked at 17, and now he drops 15 spots to 32. Verified intel. This is the only verified intel I gave you guys on this sheet, I think. Some teams have reportedly removed McCoy from draft boards completely after the lackluster pro day performance. That doctors are also concerned that he will need another surgery to replace a bone plug used to repair a cartilage defect in his knee. That's huge. Right? That's huge. And that's per sources. Irregardless. Zion Young. This is a tough one for me at 33. It's a tough one. Why? The MSU tunnel altercation, the DWI in 2025, and the prior assault charge that I found upon background checks. I'm worried about the guy's mental more than anything. The physical game, what he does is, I think a lot of it's phenomenal. He has the size of 6'6". He's got solid weight at 262. Big hands. Arm length is just a little shy, but 33 inches you can work with. And his ape index is average. His production was solid, right? 17.4% pass rush win rate, 16.5 TFLs, 6.5 sacks. That's the kind of production that you can't really replace, but does it translate to the NFL? Not always. Not always. Previously, I had him in the top 50 rank at, I think, 32. I dropped him back one. I was going to have him completely dropped out of the top 36. I'm a little bit worried about the police, issues here, or involving police. We'll see where it goes. Cassius Howell. Probably could have put him ahead of Zion Young. But my biggest concern with him is the 30.25 inch arms. I think that this guy, if he can develop into an inside linebacker, I think that's his best way to go. Having him outside as a pure edge, he kind of falls right in line with the same as R. Mason Thomas, where you're going to have to put him out in the wide 9 and stand him up and let him rush. He's not going to be a 3-down player, in my opinion. My red flags: short arms, 0.99 ape index, struggles versus the run, 3.1 run stop. What you will notice is players that struggle against the run in this type of position, linebacker, edge, it's because of short arms. It's not usually anything other than that, that I see that players at this level are struggling against one thing specifically. It's either recognition, getting kind of caught up in the trash and not able to cleanly see what's going on during the play, or poor recognition like pre-snap, post-snap. And in this case, it's arm length. It consistently shows up. Man, I didn't finish a lot of stuff on these. I can't believe how long it took me to write all this. I got like 2 more to give you here. 2 more to give you here. Caleb Banks at 35. He has real potential to slide up into the first round. I think that a team that's looking for violence, a team that's looking for speed at the interior defensive tackle position, Caleb Banks could be the first off the board. But like I said, the top 36, it's all about players I view that belong in the first round for varying degrees, different schemes that make sense, team needs, a way that teams typically deploy players differently than other teams do. But you can't ignore 35-inch arms. You can't ignore almost an 86-inch wingspan with an ape index of 1.10, which is extremely rare. You can't ignore 11-inch hands and the fact that he's 327 pounds and 6'6.25". You can't ignore any of that. But what you can have a problem with is down here, the foot injuries and the consistency. and then the missed tackles. Like, those are 3 red flags to me that, the criticals would tell you that consistency is pretty high on the list, and missed tackles is extremely high on the list. If he can just fix some of this stuff, which that's 2024, a lot of 2024 stats. So the same thing with Jermod McCoy. I have a real tough time putting him up any higher because I pretty much have 2024 to look at. He fought his way back to play in a couple of games last year, and that is one of the pieces of intel that I'm going to give you. Says, I have tremendous respect for him. He hurt his foot in camp. He tried to play through it and then had to have surgery in September. Most guys who are our top 50 prospects would have just shut it down, but he busted his tail to make it back for the last 2 games. That says something about his character. And that was a quote by an AFC National Scout, and I ended up pulling this out of someone's article. I'm not sure where. So that is confirmed source intel from, I don't know if it was McShay. It might have been McShay. But that's great intel to have, to know that that's what scouts are thinking. Like, this is a guy that, he put it all on the line just to play, just to show that he could come back and play. Tells you about his hustle, man. Last but not least, Caleb Lomu. Again, only a couple years of experience for Lomu, and man, there's the range of analysis on these offensive linemen this year is just crazy to me. But his grades are poor all the way around. Only 2 seasons playing football at left tackle. And again, it's Utah. Who did he really go up against? Who did he really go up against? I'm not so sure that Austin Barber's not better than Caleb Lomu. Could be. Might be. And there's some real value, back where Austin Barber is. The things that you do like, the zero sacks, right? Only 4 penalties, 8 pressures in 2025. There's a lot to clean up. There's a lot to clean up here. And one of the biggest things for me is the gap grade. So what the Lions do best is gap run scheme, which they're going to do a lot with Petzing. We did a lot of zone over the last few years, but our gap has always remained consistent. So overall run blocking is poor, and for me, like that's huge. If you're going to come in and play for the Detroit Lions or any team that wants to run the football, those are things that you can't ignore, and that's why Lomu doesn't make a lot of sense for me. He has elite pass pro floor, 0 sacks allowed, like I said, last season, but the run game concern is extremely real, and he really hinges on a system fit. So that's your top 36, the mini beast by Detroit Football Journal, and yours truly. I'm Will Rock, and that's it for today. I went way over time today because I got to be back here in about 4 hours. Direct link to the channel is, of course, in here. Join us tonight. We're going to do jersey giveaways. We'll do some other things throughout the course of the draft. But every draft, we're going to give away at least 1 jersey. And I hope you all join me. Make sure you share the stream. Get a bunch of people out there to join us. Let's make it a party. Let's have fun. I know there's going to be about 90,000 people streaming, and there's going to be a lot of people getting shadow banned, and it's usually us. So try to get some more people in, man. Send some messages out. Send the link around, and get some more people involved. The more people, the more fun. Ads are going to be turned way back, so you won't have to worry about a bunch of ads killing you. We're going to dial it as far back as YouTube will let me go without turning them off because they don't like that. So, all right, y'all, have a good rest of your morning or what's left of it. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you guys here in a few hours for my final mock draft release. And then it's going to go up on the pick pool. Don't forget about pickpool.app. Detroit Football Journal, DFS Sports 11, exclamation. Join it today. Put your mock draft in there, and let's have some fun. Let's see who wins. All right, we'll see you guys back here in a little bit.